Hello and welcome to the Rock and Roll to Success. Today I have my friend Vishesh Harnal from India. He's a writer, a lawyer, a creator, and also a broker of happiness. So thank you for coming, Vishesh. How are you, my friend?
Thanks for having me. And yeah, I hope everything is good at your end as well.
Yeah, man. So what do you mean with broker of happiness? I know you have a great sense of humor. I can see it in your writing, but how did you come up with this name, broker of happiness?
Yeah. So the weird thing is, right, just right now, you said that you work in real estate, and I asked you, like, are you like an agent? Like that agent is like he's called a broker in India, right? So he's the middle party, and it's crazy that that word just came up previously, and now it's coming up again. So yeah, broker of happiness. Just I think I am trying to. I did some open mics, like I did some stand up, like some comedy thing, like a stand up open mic. Like you go on stage and you talk to people, or you make your own script and you talk to them, make jokes and all. And that's the premise. That's how that is one part of it. The other part is like, you know, give out joy, help people, like expect very little or like have no expectations in return. That is another reason. And I just like the way it sounded, broker of happiness. So that's why I wrote it.
Yeah, it sounds pretty dope. And when you were doing those open mics and stand-ups, did you get a bit nervous, a bit anxious the first times you went up to speak, or were you always fine with speaking to a crowd?
No, man, it's always nervous. Like I am still not a pro. I've done it like six, seven times, but I should be doing it more. Like I'm not getting the time, but like on the weekends I should probably be doing it. But it's always nerve-wracking, man. Like eventually after a point, like if you've done 15, 20, 30, then you like you calm down. But like it's always like your heart is pumping, and like there are times I just run through the lines, and I've recorded myself saying the whole plot for like 5 minutes. But when I go on stage, it's like for 3 minutes because I just rushed through everything I said because I was so nervous, and I was like, at times you don't get the response from the public, from the audience. And the feedback is so instant, like you think that this punch is going to work so well and it doesn't work, and it just bombs. And you looking in their eyes and they're like, so what? Like, am I supposed to laugh? And then you still have to like continue. And then like when I think of that, I forget things, right? I thought like this was supposed to be hilarious, and then they don't laugh at you. And then you're supposed to like recall what you're supposed to say next. And so yeah, it's always little, nerve-wracking, but I'm glad I did that because, that's the whole point. Like it's not about being funny, but it's about overcoming that hesitation of like nervousness of like public speaking, and like being vulnerable in front of people, and like doing something that probably others wouldn't do. Like if you tell somebody that I do this, if you tell, okay, I sing in public, or I do this on an open mic, so there's a different way people would look at you because they know that it's not something that everybody does because it can be nerve-wracking, and it is nerve-wracking. So yeah,
Yeah, it's something that most people are totally scared of, going up to a crowd and speaking in front of everyone. Most
yeah,
people, like you said, they kind of respect you more when you tell them that you do this because they're like, I'd never do this. And I
yeah,
also remember like when like the first times I went to a karaoke and
yeah,
singing to the crowd, and the first time it was so nerve-wracking. I didn't want to go and I didn't want to go up, but my friends had already sung, and I was like, yeah, I think I need to. So I went up and I was super nervous in the beginning, but when you get out, like the adrenaline starts going down and you feel so good about yourself. You're like, I
yeah,
can't going to this bar every Wednesday because they had the karaoke. And eventually I started like wanting to put a performance every time and singing songs that would make me more anxious or at least inferior. Like I'd sing like Britney Spears, that kind of thing that people would find funny as well. So just to have that high again or to put yourself in a situation that's more of a, and yeah, I think it's very important to do these things that you're kind of scared of because these are the things that makes us grow in the big at the end of the day, right?
When you come out of it, when you've done it, like even if you fucked up the whole thing and when you've done it, like if it's supposed to go for whatever time and if you didn't hit the right note or you didn't sing well or whatever, but that's the fact that you did it, that gives you confidence, right? You know, you're supposed to be scared of it, but you're like, no, man, I have to do this. And then later on, you'll be a lot. If you keep doing those things, that is what makes you confident, right? If you be in your shell and like, oh, I'm not going to address this issue, I'm not going to do that, then you can be that person. It's not like you could be that person, but it's a lot better. It takes a lot of courage to be on the other side.
Yeah, it is. And I think even we tend to look at people at the end of the race, like people that are very good at public speaking, we think, oh, he's always been like that. But most of
Yeah,
the time, that's not the case. He just trained a
yeah,
lot and he did a lot and put in the reps. And if we think like, oh, he's good at this or he's good at that, and we don't think of how much he has worked to get there, that's why we tend to get overwhelmed or a bit intimidated by people because we think, oh, he's a natural, it's a talent he has. And most of the time, that's just a bullshit excuse so you don't do what you need to do.
yeah. There's this. Do you know Jerry Seinfeld?
Yeah, of
Yes, so
course.
so he had this Seinfeld show, right? So in one of the episodes, he has this clip, right? Whenever he does the show, he has this first 30-second clip where he's on stage and then the episode starts. So in one of these clips, he was just highlighting the same that uh, there's some survey or whatever. But even though it might not be a survey, but he was just saying that most people are more afraid of public speaking, like giving a eulogy, like a eulogy. That is what he said. That time I didn't know what it meant. So eulogy is when you speak when somebody is dead, right? You go to the church and you speak, like you say good things about them and you like commemorate them. So he said that more people are afraid of the eulogy than being in the casket. It's like the coffin. So you rather be dead rather than like come up and speak in public. And that's true, man. Like, it's not like you might want to be dead. If you're given an option, you might want to go out in public and speak, but that's the analogy, right? That's that people are really afraid of speaking in public.
Yeah, we are. It's not natural for us. I
Yeah.
think when we were hunter-gatherers, we didn't really
Yeah.
speak in public, and we had this feeling that maybe if I say the wrong things, they will kick me out of the tribe, so it's better
Yeah.
to
They'll
not
judge you.
speak anything.
Yeah. That's true.
But also, man, you're a lawyer, so you kind of have to do some public speaking once in a while, don't you?
Yeah. So I did study law, but I didn't practice it. But like I did go to the courts, and I did not like only a few times I spoke in front of the judge, and I wouldn't consider that to be public speaking. But then when I was interning at places like in some commissions, like commission for women or like commissions for like consumer disputes, and then when you go there and you realize like people who are so passionate about law and lawyers like 20, 30 years who have their whole team like three, four young guys who just joined them, and the senior guy just keeps going on, and there are many like new guys as well, like somebody in their 20s or 30s just graduated from law school, and after 2, 3 years they just have a different kind of confidence and they're able to like cite the sections and they're like so crisp, it's very different talking like one to one, like talking to you, and even though you're still addressing a judge, you're addressing a person, like you're only addressing the chair of the court, but it's still people in the back of you, the people like waiting outside to have their cases, and that still makes it a public appearance. It's not like they show it in movies that there's one guy who's talking like arguing and the whole audience is listening to you, but there are people still in the background like waiting for their cases, or there'll be some person who's a party to the case. So it's really interesting the way they conduct themselves in public. There's a certain way they talk. It's very professional. It's very respectful, and that is one way of talking. And then the other way of talking publicly could be like Jerry Seinfeld or Robin Williams or some comedians or somebody who's a motivational speaker, right? So it's so many different ways of doing it. And a lawyer, like he has to be really professional and respectful. So yeah, I didn't experience it personally, but like I saw people doing it, and it was really impactful.
And how did this impact you personally?
I got insecure, man. I was like, look at these fucking guys, man. How am I going to speak like them? And I used to always like gauge their age, like guess how old they are, and like guess my age. And I'm like, okay, I have these many years to become like this. And some sort of calculation that went in my head. Okay, I'm like whatever 21, 22, and they're like 25, 26, and they're speaking so well and they're successful and whatever. So I should be at this level or probably before them, and this is the no, this is the benchmark that I'm supposed to reach. So I was like, I was afraid, man. I think it is immature-ish of me to say that, like think that, but that is what went in my mind when I heard those guys. I felt insecure.
Yeah, I think it's kind of natural when you're 21, 20 years 22
Yeah,
years old, and you look at those guys that are a bit older than you, or like 5, 10 years older, and you think
yeah,
like these guys are the adults in the room. They know what the fuck they're doing, and many
yeah,
times they don't even know. They just
yeah,
speak better because they're
yeah,
more used to it. But yeah, I feel you, man. I felt that way as well when I was still in college and finishing it up and thinking, wow, I'm never gonna be a good like worker because these guys are so much better because you have
yeah,
this in your mind. It's not even true, but sometimes we have
yeah.
these kinds of thoughts, right?
Just because they sound more confident, your mind just assumes that okay, he's supposed to be better. He's supposed to be better than me. He might say something absolutely which is not right. He might say something that's factually incorrect. But just because the way they say it, the way their body language is, and they that is why they say, right? That is why they say lawyers are liars, because they have to like fake their confidence also at times, because they can't show that like if you're a lawyer and I'm somebody who's guilty of a crime, right? You're supposed to defend me in the same manner. You're supposed to think that I'm innocent, right? You cannot tell the world that I'm guilty. You're supposed to represent me, right? So you can't show that in your body language or in the way you're speaking that it cannot reflect, it cannot come up, and that's why like law is a controversial profession. But yeah, it's just because the way they sound professional and they sound confident, your mind is like, okay, like look at him, and like that's where the insecurity comes from.
Yeah, definitely. And when you were in college, did you guys have classes on public speaking or in how to present yourselves, or is this something that you have to learn like on the fly?
So there are moot courts, like mock courts. So it's a hall, like we have classrooms, but we have a separate classroom where like different colleges, different people from different classes, different colleges, they have competitions where people come up and they speak, and they have like these dummy courts where like a professor or somebody from outside, they come up and they they act as judges, and there's so many videos on YouTube, right? Uh, if you Google moot courts, like these people, like these are students who are like in their first or second year of college, and they're having such great arguments, and that is how they practice it. Then there are like national, international level competitions where like actual judges come out and they judge you, who act as judges. They might be like retired judges or like actual serving judges. That is one way you learn it, but like I was not very active in all of those things. So for me, I even in those times I used to like do open mics and all, and I would be like shitting my pants and be like, just had this like my heart was in my mouth, and I just went out in public and I spoke. But I was not very active in the moot court. So there's one semester that everybody's mandatory supposed to do a moot court. That is the only time I did it. In all other times, I was like the open mic thing or like other ways rather than just in the court or in the moot courts.
Yeah, to be fair to you, I think the open mic might be more nerve-wracking than the
Yeah.
courts sometimes.
That's what I realize. Like when I'm speaking to you, that's when I realize that in a closed setting where you know what you're saying, you know the audience, you know the teachers, that's more like, you're accustomed to everybody. But then if open mic, you don't know who's in the audience, who's what. At times, like made use like what my opening line was when I made the first open mic was that all of you guys. This is how I was addressing the audience, that like all of in my local language in Hindi, that all of you guys have come here. You don't have anything else better to do. What's wrong with you? Like, don't you have anything else to do? Like, you coming here like seeing a random guy and you thinking that he's supposed to make you laugh. You don't pay anything to me. All of those things. So that is, and then people will not react well also, right? People will be like, what the fuck is he saying, right? Their egos get, they'll be like, what's wrong with him and all of those things. So yeah, that those things like they pinch you even more, right? Because you don't know what the audience is going to react. And that's why, like you said, it might be a little more difficult than just like doing a moot court in a closed setting.
Yeah, man. And you were mentioning that you're doing these open mics in Hindi and you live in Mumbai, right?
Yeah, so I just shifted to Mumbai, but I did my college. So it's a long story. 2014 to 2019, 5 years is the law we do in India. That is in Pune, which is like 3 hours from Mumbai. It's another metro city. And 2019, I come back to home, to my house, and I start preparing for civil services. Right? It's supposed to be like the most. They say that's the most difficult exam in the world. It's for getting into the bureaucracy. And that is why, like, you're supposed to study world history, geography, economics, and that is why I know Dilma Rousseff, your president,
Mm-hmm.
like Jacob Lula, Bolsonaro. So you're supposed to know all these like political developments, what's happening there, like the right fingers happening there, what's the geography there like, what is the highest peak in the Andes, all those things like history, geography, economics, and then our own history and all of those things. So I studied that for the exam. Unfortunately, I couldn't clear it. So it's like 500,000 people competing for 700 seats. I didn't get through, so I did law. I did masters in law, and then I did a job for a year, like in contract law. But thankfully now I have finally gotten into like content making. I'm working for a person who's actually he is a motivational speaker and he's a sales and marketing guru. It has nothing to do with law, and like I've transitioned like from the law thing to the content thing. So yeah, that's the storyline. And I am in Mumbai. Yeah, that's supposed to be the hub for open mics and like Bollywood and all these like creative things in India. It's our New York, our version of New York in some ways.
Yeah, and how is it living in such a large city, one of the greatest, or maybe the largest in the world right now? I'm not sure the position in the ranking because they always shift, but how is it living? There must be so much to do, so much opportunity for work. How is it there?
Yeah, like it's good, man. There's a lot of opportunity in the city, but it's so crowded, you know. It's like the population of my country is 100 and it's 1.5 billion. We've already overtaken China. And I'm not sure what the population of Brazil is, but what the metric I read was that the one of our states, the population of that state is 200 million. Okay, and
Yeah, that's
yours is
about
like,
Brazil.
yeah, 200 million.
Yeah,
That's
we're
one
200,
state.
220, something like that.
Yeah, that's one state. That's the most populous state, but that is the population of one state. And Mumbai is like, I think 35 million or 40 million. And so those many people living in like whatever like small area, so it's very expensive. Like it's the most expensive city in the country, and but yeah, it's like it's very cosmopolitan. It's very the culture is very different. Like even for an Indian guy, if he's not used to all these things, it would be like a culture shock for anybody coming from a different part of the country and they come here and they see people how they're interacting and the culture. It's very cosmopolitan. It's very like proper cosmopolitan. So yeah, there's a lot of opportunity. There's many things that even I'm figuring out. Uh, Meeting people, doing all of those things. So yeah, it's nice, man. It's our version of New York, you can say.
And talking about India, like for people that want to visit India, what else do you recommend them do or places to go, things to eat? What would you recommend to someone who wants to go to India?
Yeah, so I would not recommend the cities. I wouldn't recommend coming to Mumbai or Delhi or wherever because like so many scammers here, and it's just it's so much congestion and suffocation and so many fucking people. At times even I feel like I'm in the local station, like in our subways, and there are like so many people. I'm in the escalator and I look at people, they're like ants running around, running to get in the train so they don't miss the train. So I wouldn't recommend the cities, but I'd recommend going to the Himalayas, like Himachal Pradesh is one. So, so the whole Himalayan belt, it starts from Afghanistan. Some parts of Pakistan are there. Then we have Jammu, and it continues on to like Tibet, like Nepal, Tibet, and then Myanmar. So our part, if you come to India, Himachal Pradesh is one. If you Google images of Himachal Pradesh, it's like it at times I think it beats Switzerland as well, and very few people there. The many foreigners who go there, Like the many Israelis, all the Israelis, after they completed their training, they're like boards written in Hebrew there. Everywhere you go, there are boards in Hebrew, in English, and not in Hindi, but only in Hebrew. Made for Hebrews, like so, sorry for Israelis. They have dishes for like Israeli dishes. Like we don't have those menus in the cities, but in some small hamlet in Himachal, where like foreigners are going, there's so many. They've been going there for like 30, 40 years, since the 80s, 90s. That the whole culture and the whole place has become accustomed to having people. I was there for some time, and like I met like many Israelis, and they were like my parents met here in India, and they got married wherever, whatever. And like this is the second generation of Israelis who's coming here. So it's like very, it's very different. So Himachal is one place. Probably go to Goa. It's like a beach. It's not very clean. It's like Indian standards, not the best. So probably Himachal would be the like you can stay there for months. So Himachal would be the biggest recommendation.
Yeah, so if I want to get the best hummus in India, I should go to the
Yeah,
Israeli
hummus,
hamlets.
pita bread. Yeah, hummus and pita bread, shakshuka, and I don't know, like there's so many hundred things that even people in the city they wouldn't know, right? Unless you somebody's really aware, and because you won't get those dishes in like a normal restaurant unless you go to like a very proper place. You won't get those things. But if you go up there, you'll find many places. So Himachal is like it's rocking, man. And the rave scene, the rave scene. There's a very big rave scene. I know it's a very big rave scene in Brazil as well. The many artists. That's the biggest reason like many foreigners come there because the rave scene is like it's very chill there. People do all kinds of things in Himachal and it's like it's infamous. It's like very infamous like in Indian if you tell somebody you're going to Himachal, you'll be like, okay, you're going there for that. So yeah, that's the reason for people to come there. They chill in the Himalayas, they look at the clouds, the mountains, and they stay there for months.
Yeah, with that backdrop, you can probably live there forever because it's so
Yeah, yeah.
beautiful, right?
The people who live there for months, man. Like the foreigners come here, and like Indian people go there on the weekends. They come back, or like they go for 3 4 days, and you see people there like they've been here since March, and they'll be here till whatever like September October, and then they'll go like somewhere else. They'll somewhere else in other city or wherever. But I think they plan their travel in a way that they're supposed to be living in one place for like some time, and then they cover the whole area.
And do you meet many foreigners there and that are visiting or they're or looking for business opportunities? Because India is an up and coming place that is said to overcome many of the top economies because, like you said, you guys have such a big population and many people that are willing to learn, willing to grow, and the economy, of course, will grow as well. So, do you see many people going there for the opportunities as well, not only for the beautiful landscapes?
I mean, yeah, it is the upcoming economy and all. About 50% of the population is supposed to be under 30. So that's what they call it the demographic dividend, which means that the number of dependent people is less than the number of independent people. So there's this window, right? That demographic window for India is like 50, 60 years. So till 2050, 55, I think that is till that many those many years our dependent population will be less than the working population. So that's a good thing. That is more people contributing more, you get more taxes in every way. But I think as an individual, not many people would come here. There's still a lot of, everybody still wants to go out. And remittances like which means that people sending money from outside to India. That is like the highest number of remittances in the world comes from Indians, right? So the people who go to Dubai, that's the first destination for Indians because it's close by UAE. And if they go to America or London or Germany, wherever, they go there, they work and they send money back because the dollar is like a lot worth a lot more. So India has the highest number of remittances, which is like it's not a good thing, A lot of talent goes out. They call it brain drain, because your people are getting educated here and then they go out because they know that we don't. not as well paid, but I think in the future, probably yes, probably in the next 15, 20 years, if we have that infrastructure, if we have that many well-paying jobs, then individuals could come here. But like for companies, like if you have an established company, then India is a very big market, right? It's the biggest market in the world possible. Like you can have, even if you target like a small audience, that itself would be like in millions, because even like just like the top 5% of the country would be like what, 500 million, very big number. So the many the many brands, we have, so we have all the brands here. We have LV and Christian Dior and Balenciaga. I mean, they're not as prevalent, but there are like specific showrooms where like people of the highest of the high, they go. And then we have Apple's factory like Foxconn. They have set up shop in Chennai and Bangalore, and they're making plants in different parts of the country because they know like in the future, and this is the upcoming place, Gorilla Glass, the glass that you get on your screen. There are factories for that. There are a lot of talks that when the Prime Minister said that he's talking to Tesla, probably getting him here, but like we're charging him a lot of import duty, and like that would like not make it sustainable for him. Or probably like 2, 3 years, 5 years, who knows, like probably this year, but in some time we might be like it, so it was England, right? It was England which rose, then they fell, then it was Americans who rose. Now they're going down. Now it will be the Chinese. After Chinese, it'll probably be India. So but it's still a long walk, but you can see ripples of that. You can see that the build-up is there. So the sentiment is there for everybody, for Indians and for like outsiders.
Yeah, I think in many ways it's sort of India going back to its place. India and China, really, because they were both the largest economies of the world for a
Yeah.
long, long time, even
Yeah.
though at least here where I live, we tend to have a very Eurocentric vision or
Yeah.
a westernized vision. But if
Yeah.
you go to the numbers, India and China, they always had huge populations, and so
Yeah.
their economies were huge before the British came and sort of
Yeah.
stole you guys.
They took everything from us, man. Everything. I mean, and the thing you're talking about population, today is our Republic Day, okay? 77th Republic Day. And in 1947, when we became independent, even at that time, the population was 350 million. Even at that time, in 1947. So even 77 years back, we were 350 million. So now we are 1.5 billion. And the Eurocentric mindset that you're saying, that is what they did to you as well, right? The Portuguese fucked you, right? The British fucked us, and Spanish fucked some other people. Even though that's controversial, but that's the truth, man. The reason that we have, people can have walk on those fancy cycles in Denmark, and people can have those EVs in Norway or wherever in London, is because they took all the money from us. They fucking took indigo from us. They made us work like hell, and they looted everything. They waged war against like the princes, the local princes. It was also because like we were dumb. The Indians were very dumb. They thought that we had this inferiority complex, that look at him, like he's fair skinned. So like we had this insecurity of like the white man, and there's this thing that the British, when they were here, they said that it's our burden. It's the white man's burden, We're supposed to
Yeah.
civilize them. It's our burden to civilize them. So I mean, yeah, man, I can go on and on. Like I had read a lot of modern history, which like just says that wherever the colonies were, that is the reason we have so many conflicts today. It's because of the colonies, like India and Pakistan, all the conflicts that we have, the Hindus and Muslims are fighting. It's because the seeds that were sown by the colonialists. So it's sad, man. It's sad.
Yeah, man. I'd like to go a bit more into this, actually. Do you
Yeah.
think this had a bit to do with the religious background in India? Because when the British got there, of course, you had this vision of, like you said, the white man's burden from their part, but also from certain parts of the elite in India or some certain parts of the society. They also sort of got into a marriage with the British. So do you
Yeah.
think some influence?
Yeah. So like they were helpless, right? They had these big territories, they had all this wealth, they had horses and elephants, and like they were generation, the wealth was generational, right? So like if I am a king and like 10 generations back, I have had wealth for 10 generations, I can't just let it go like that, right? I'll try to do everything that's possible for me. So when I see that British are like very strategically, they're trying to like wage war between princes in like some part of in south part of India, then the central part of India, and in the eastern part of India, and then like slowly like trying to take over. So what can I do? I'll try to like even though that's like that it's like a traitor, right? You're like a traitor to your own country. But that's another thing. There's no concept of being Indian, okay? There's nothing as Indian. There's this all these small cities, and people didn't have this idea of being Indian. It's just like, okay, I live in this area of one whatever 5 kilometers, 10 kilometer radius, and like I'm a Mumbaiker. Like I'm wherever I come from is Mumbai. If I go like 10 kilometers down the line, there'll be somebody else who has a king and he'll have his own whatever. There's no concept of a country, right? So that is why they fought a lot, and that is why I think there's no identity to bind us. That's the reason, right? It's so diverse. There's nothing to bind us really. But that's what we say that there's which means that there is in this all this diversity brings us together, but then also it just throws us on the other side as well. And what you're saying about the kings and all, I think it was they were bound to do it because that's the only way they could have like tried to like hold on to their wealth. But unfortunately, even that didn't happen. Like slowly, steadily, like they even told them to fuck off, like the Mughals, like the last Mughal emperor, the people they were inside their own country, but like the last Mughal ruler, they told him to fuck off and all because had no like there was no authority only after a point. There's no like if you're a king and I ask you for something, or if the king just says that okay, this is what is going to happen from tomorrow. So he had a word, right? There's some weight in his word. But when the British came, there's just there's no he had no weight in his word. And then eventually I think all the smaller princes also like tried to compromise with the British, and unfortunately in the end even that fell through, and you know it just fell apart, man. They took over everything.
But do you think, is there anything good that they left you guys with?
I mean, on the whole, there's absolutely nothing that can, make up for whatever they took. People say like, oh, look at them, they built the railways or they gave us tea and all. Okay, that's true, but then you took like, if I take like $1 million from you and I give you $100, like that $100 can never compensate for that, right? But if you ask me, then yeah, probably, the elaborate railway system, we had the post, we had the telegraph, we have the post system, we had earlier days, we had radio, we had the railway system. That's the biggest achievement was the railways. But unfortunately, they built the railway so that they can export the indigo, they can export cotton, they can like so that they can there's ease of access. Like you build tracks from here to there, and then from there you have your ports, and from there they take it back to Europe and they sell it for whatever. So yeah, the ports and the railway system was the biggest. But that still doesn't count, man. I mean, I told you, right? I give you $1 million and I'm like, oh, please, Gabe, I'm doing a favor to you. I'm giving you $100. Go have fun. So it doesn't work like that.
Yeah, just to export the riches back to England or back to America
Yeah.
or Europe in general.
So we fueled the industrial revolution, when it's happening in London, the 18th, 19th century. It came from Indian money, like India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Nepal, all of that was one at that time. Myanmar, Sri Lanka, and and then now people are saying like you should not use coal, you should not be using carbon, you should be having EVs, and you should like phase out these cars. And I'm like how can you tell us this, man? Like you were the ones who took away this and you have the privilege of saying this. Like we can't have EVs right now, man. We are making, and even the electricity that we make is coming from coal. So even if we have EVs, what's the point?
Yeah, well, they do use this as a tool to try to keep us down in a sense. All of this greenwashing, and I'm very pro environment. In no
Yeah,
sense I'm saying that we should just
yeah,
like set fire to the forest or anything. It's not
yeah.
that. that's not the
Yeah.
point. But yeah, like you said, they get those pictures of the factories in China or the power plants and say, look at these guys, they're fucking up the environment or the atmosphere. But like you said, in the 18th, 19th, 20th century, they use those cheap energies as well to grow to the point they are now. And now they might have the luxury, and
Yeah.
sometimes not even the luxury, but sort of, how do you say it? They're a bit of hypocrites because they export this as well, because at the same time they buy a lot of cheap goods from Asia,
Yeah.
but they don't count this as their own like emissions.
Outsource them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're outsourcing the bad stuff, so all the pollution goes to India or goes to Southeast Asia. But who's buying these things? They are buying these things themselves at the end of the day.
Yeah. Bangladesh has like, if the cost of producing a shirt in Bangladesh would be like $2, one and a half, $2. And I'm talking about like Abercrombie, Abercrombie and Fitch A&F. I'm sure you've heard of it. It's a like a,
Yeah.
it's not a brand, but like it's a high, it's somewhere I think in the middle. So, yes, and they will sell that shirt for like $100 or like $50 or whatever, $70. And they have these even like LV and all. I was seeing, I saw something on YouTube. It said that even LV and Christian Dior and all of those players, even they have these sweatshops in Bangladesh and Vietnam or wherever, and they don't pay them anything. Like, and I thought like people who buy like who make these clothes, they're supposed to be like making them with their hands, uh, not like, I mean, these people are still making it with their hands, but they're doing it out of, it's their compulsion. There's no other way. Yeah, man, it's sad, man. It's very sad. The pollution is coming here. We are the ones who, Taj Mahal, right? The Taj Mahal. So the Taj Mahal, like it was white, this shiny white in the 80s, but we have these leather factories and tanneries in a neighboring like 100 kilometers away. There's a city called Kanpur, and there's so many like leather goods that are being made there. All the pollution from there. There's a lot of sulfur that comes out from the factories, and all of that got accumulated over the years in 10, 15 years. And like the Taj Mahal, the pristine shine, the whiteness, that is gone now. It's like yellowish, brownish, and I mean, you know, there's no accountability, man. Like it's like, okay, this is how it is. Life's unfair. This is how it's supposed to be. So yeah,
Yeah, but I think we'll get there eventually.
yeah,
Like it's not
it'll come
like,
around.
yeah, it's not like the people around the Taj Mahal, or it's not like they want to live in the pollution or with the dirty air or the dirty water. No one wants to
Yeah.
live like that. Of course, you guys, as technology develops and you can have like a cheaper way to manufacture things in a way that's a bit more friendly to the environment and less polluting, of course you will implement it eventually. It's not like people who are living in these situations want you to do this.
I mean, same for your country, man. Like, who would want to live in a ghetto, in a favela, or whatever you're saying, right? People at the places which are worse off than the favela. But then, who's going? Like, that's the other thing. Like, we need people like that. I mean, there are things that you would never do because whatever, like, it's in your psyche, in your mind. Those things are like you would never do them, and we even need whatever, like those people, right? Even though like there's the stereotype, we need people like that as well, right? So there in India, like the caste system is really strong, uh, and the people who clean the sewers, who go down and like clean the sewers, this a specific caste of people who end up doing that. And like, even though it is supposed to be abolished, the caste system is long gone, untouchability is gone, but like the stigma is still so strong that a Brahmin, like thankfully I am a Brahmin. I say thankfully because like we have a lot of perks and all. So we exploited, like, and as a Brahmin, our and my ancestors exploited them so much. Like even only those like the lowest caste is supposed to do all those like sweepers, like toilet sweepers, cleaners. That even down to this day, if it is this dung on the road, if you ask somebody randomly, that guy who's picking up the dung, he would be somebody is from the lower caste. And unfortunately, we need people like that as well. But I think with time, with machines, with technology, as you said, the intervention of humans would reduce. There are manholes. This is so sad. Like in manholes, there are Indians, like this many Indians who actually go down in the sewer and clean it. But we're making machines for that. And for like I think in some time we'll have machines which will automate all of that. So humans don't have to go through that. Yes, that's where technology comes. Hopefully, in the future, in some years, we can automate all those things.
And since you touched this, how does the caste system work in India nowadays? Is this something like when a baby is born, do you already know the caste? Or how does it work?
Yeah, so you're born in the family. So if you are born in a Brahmin family, like the priestly class, yeah, class and caste both. So you're born. It's not like merit. It's no merit is nowhere. There's no, there's no upward mobility. So if you're born a Kshatriya is a warrior. That's second class. So there are four classes. Brahmin is like the priestly class, like the clergy. Second class is Kshatriyas who are warriors who fought. There's Brahmins, Kshatriyas, yeah, Vaishyas, yeah, yeah, Vaishyas are like traders. That's the third class. Vaishyas are traders, and fourth is Shudras. Shudras are like who do the odd jobs and all. So if you're born in the Shudra family in the fourth, then your kids and their kids and whatever they'll always be like that. They cannot marry people. If somebody's fucking got married out of their caste, they would probably be excommunicated and still very strong. Like it's a lot less, but like still people wouldn't like cut their caste. That thing is very very strong. That sentiment is still very strong. So the Brahminical class, the priestly class, they exploited everybody. Like thankfully, I am like my as I told you, my forefathers they exploited them so much that today we have reservation for everybody. Like in government jobs, they have reservation, they have quotas. In colleges, in schools, you have quotas for them. Like uh, affirmative action, they call it affirmative action. So they're trying to undo the wrongs of the past so that they can have better education and all of that. So yeah, there's no scope for upward mobility. You cannot get married in another caste, and yeah, it's sad, man. That's how it works.
And like you said, you guys are implementing laws and some ideas to try to make up for the wrongs from the past.
Yeah.
But do you, like you said as well, there are many stigmas still attached to some castes. And do you see this changing? Like, if you think about 10 or 20 years ago, do you think it has changed already? And do you see it changing in the future as well?
Yeah, it's changing, but it's changed very slow, man. Like in the cities, you see, in the cities, nobody asks anybody anything. If you have the money, that is the biggest currency. That is the fucking biggest currency. If you have the money, then balls, man. Like you can get what you want. You can be with whomsoever you want. But I think in the rural areas, in the countryside, it's very different. I still see like when I went to office and I got inducted, that guy who was like giving the introduction about the company and all, he's a smoker and all, so he was telling me that when I go to my hometown and I smoke cigarettes with the Shudras who's supposed to be from the lower caste, his my that colleague's grandmother would be like, "What is wrong with you? Like, how can you be with these guys? How can you like even share your whatever like space with them? You're not supposed to give them water also. You cannot give them water. You cannot like it's not like you can't give them water, but like if that's it's not preferred. Like they wouldn't have water from the same cup. If you have water from the same cup, or like if you give them food, then you probably will not even use that whatever plate another time in your life. You probably just throw it, or like there's a
Wow.
separate number of cups or like whatever for somebody who comes in. Like this happens in my home as well. Like the help that I have, like she gets a different cup. Like wherever my mother makes tea, she'll put it. She has a separate cup for her, and I tell her, but she's like, okay, I accept it. The point is not to like propagate it further, but it's very strong. It's in the cities, it's still less, but in the countryside, it's strong still.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Here in Brazil, we don't have a system like this, but we do have a lot of systemic racism,
Yeah.
especially it's something similar to what we were talking about before. Like the whiter or the more pale your skin, you sort of get some subconscious privileges depending on where you go, and it's not. We are also trying to do some affirmation, but yeah, it's a long process to go through.
It's a long road, man. It's, it'll take generations. But thankfully, it's still better off what we were than 300 years ago, right? It's probably will
Yeah,
get
yeah,
better.
because like we were saying, this took 200, 300, 500
Yeah,
years. It won't go
yeah,
away from one day to the next. It's
yeah.
very ingrained in culture.
Yeah, but that's the other thing, when these things go away, the culture also goes away with that. The language also goes away with that. Because everything is getting so modernized, it's so Western, like because everybody wants a certain kind of lifestyle. They want to wear brands, they look up to like these icons which are Western, and they want to speak English. They want to, they want to be live that dream in their country, and they discard everything. The good things also go away with that. So the many places in the country, like we have so many languages, like tribal languages, they are dying because people don't want to speak those languages because people look down on them. And if you speak English, you're like, wow, look at this guy, he's cool. Like if you speak English, but if you speak your local language, then they'll like consider you like whatever, you know. So not very proud of what we are, what language we have. That's another thing that goes away with all of that.
Yeah, and speaking about this, and on another point that you mentioned before, that when the British first came, there was no concept of India because there were many kingdoms and principalities, like villages, and it was all scattered all around the place. Like you said, your identity was like 5, 10 kilometers of radius. But also in the last decades or so, India has started becoming more of a monolithic thing. Has Indian nationalism started rising? And was it something that was, well, usually they do this very on purpose. Like the government tries to inculcate this nationalism into people so that they have this common identity and they try to work together. So, how was this process from being a British colony to becoming a strong country in its own self?
So when we were independent, we were ruled by one party, which is called the Congress, Indian National Congress, and they ruled us for like of the 77 years, they ruled us for like about 40 or 50 years. The majority time they ruled. In 2014, we had the general elections, and the background to that was like this government, the government in 20, this Congress government, they had done like there were many scams, the many like spectrum scams, right? So they allocate spectrum to you, right? In telecommunication, if there are bands, right, like 2G band, 3G band, so the government allocates that spectrum in the, even though it's a weird thing, like how can you allocate spectrum, like it's a public resource, right? But the government allocates it to you, so that's one way they make money. So they like misappropriated the contracts, and these guys made a lot of money. There's a coal scam, so it meant a lot of corruption cases. And this guy Narendra Modi, he said that I'm going to, when I become prime minister, I'll give you like 1 million rupees in everybody's bank account, because these fuckers, these Congress people, they're holding them in their Swiss accounts and all of those things. So all of that didn't happen. Like, of course, he didn't give us a rupee or anything. But this thing that you're saying of nationalism and this, whole rise of the Hindu. Like I am a Hindu, right? So I am very privileged. I am a Hindu, I'm a Brahmin. I am like, for me, this government is the best government for me. But like, if I look objectively, then probably not. The 2014 to 2019, he has this whole thing like he's trying to suppress the minority, and like, there's a lot of disputes happening with the Muslims, and it's very controversial, man. I mean, I wouldn't say like everybody is innocent, but there've been so many fuck ups by the Muslims as well, that I wouldn't say that only the Hindus are to blame. Just I think it's humans, everybody's not to blame. So I think it was a lot of back and forth happening between Hindus and Muslims. And I'm not sure if this came in the news, like 22nd January. Ram, the Ram is like the icon of in Hindu mythology. We made a temple for him. There was a demolition of a mosque and we made a temple on that. So it was a very celebrated event. We had a public holiday on 22nd January. So all of this is contributing to, like, resurgence of the Indian, which is like most of it is for the Hindu, because this is a fact that many Muslims or even Christians, and many of them are have been converted. There's so many, like the Portuguese, the Portuguese were even bigger this thing for they had the most number of missionaries in the colonial times, and they would go in the tribal area in the forest, and they would convert these like tribals, and they tell you that, oh, if you do this you'll get whatever, like they give them some incentive. So that is the whole backdrop of the rise of the Hindu, of the right wingers. But that is something that's happening all over the world, right? When Trump was around, that was happening in America. We don't want he was against LGBTs. He was really conservative in Brazil when Bolsonaro was there, right? He was a capitalistic government, right? And that is what right winger is. Bolsonaro said that this forests are ours. It's for us to see if you want to burn the forest and like have companies or make offices there. It's not for an American or Indian to say that, oh, we should not be doing this. These are our resources. You see that in Philippines. You see that in Sri Lanka, in Russia. So this is happening in a lot of places in the world. So yeah, that image is rising, and now in 2024 we have elections in March, April, and he is going to come for the third time for sure. He probably will have even more votes than he had in 2019. So yeah, that's the background.
Wow. So do you think Modi is the strongest politician or the strongest force in India since Gandhi?
Mean, yeah, there's Nehru as well, right? I don't know if you know Nehru, Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru, like he was the one who laid the foundation for the country. Like Mahatma Gandhi chose Nehru as his successor rather than the other people around him. But he chose Nehru, who was from the Congress, and that is where the hierarchy or the generational politics started. Nehru made his her daughter a prime minister. Then Indira Gandhi was the prime minister. Then she was shot. She was assassinated. Indira Gandhi's son Rajiv Gandhi, he became the prime minister. Then that guy was also assassinated. So the family had two assassinations. But yeah, to answer your question, that in recent times, yeah, I mean, he's an icon. The way he dresses, the way he conducts himself, the way he has his whole body language. Just yesterday, like Emmanuel Macron, yeah, he's a prime minister. He came to Jaipur, and like Narendra Modi was like showing him our payment interface, like you click, you tap a button, you buy this, you click here, you scan the QR code, and you can make the payments and all of that. So he has this strongman image, which I think we needed that image, and there is no alternative here. So fortunately, unfortunately, he's the only guy we have. So I wouldn't say he's bigger than Gandhi or even Nehru. Like I consider Nehru to be a bigger one, because in those dynamics, in those times, like when the country is naive, when the country is very, it's just a new country, and you could have done whatever you wanted to do. You could have like taken over and like allocated everything to yourself and be like fuck the citizens. But he didn't do that, and he made the constitution, and like, so I have more respect for him. But in recent times, yeah, he's the boss man.
So do you guys have like a sense of a positive outlook on the future for India coming for the next decades?
Yeah, man. I mean, yeah, of course, we are positive because of the way what we are. I mean, the government is only there to facilitate it, right? The government won't do shit for you. Like you only have to get up and do things whatever you want to do. So yeah, he's facilitating it, but there's a lot of marketing, and there's a lot of advertising that goes on. So if he does something for $1, the advertising would be like for $5, and like he's made your worries, and you know he's not a messiah, man. He's just, but like I respect him for what he is, because like he ran a tea store, bro. Like he came from nothing, absolutely nothing, and then going on to becoming the prime minister. That itself is a very big thing. So I respect him for that, but like don't totally agree with his politics. Uh, but yeah, he's created this persona that India is the next US, probably in the next 10, 15, 20 years after China. And he would never accept that. He would never say that China is better than us, because it is not, right? They don't have the freedoms, even though their incomes and their manufacturing is more than us. After China, I think that would be the next. Uh, we would be the next, probably, and then probably Brazil. Or I don't know. Probably Brazil might be next after China. So yeah, it's the economy. Yeah, we really, it is. We are positive about it.
Yeah, I think you guys have a bit more potential because of two main factors that I see. First, the population, of course. Brazil will never have as big a population as India. I'm sure of that,
Why do
even
you
if
have
we
to have that
wanted to.
population, bro? Why do you have to have so many people around you that everybody's like bumping into you and like,
Oh yeah, I mean that's a bad thing, but in terms of growth and economic
yeah,
prowess, it does help to have more people doing work and
yeah,
doing manufacturing and agricultural jobs for sure. And another thing that I see is that you guys are more in the middle of the big population centers. You guys yourselves, and you're also next to China and Southeast Asia,
yeah,
so not so far away from Europe. So
mm,
I think geographically it's easier to manufacture there and
yeah.
like take it to other
That's
places.
the plan. That's the plan. Like we had a meet wherein like Saudi Arabia, we're going to make something that goes from Iran to like central like Eastern Europe and then to Western Europe where the markets are. And like we can't do it with Pakistan unfortunately because we always are fighting. There's a lot of shit that comes from there and like we have to deal with that. So it doesn't happen from it cannot happen through Pakistan. Like if you were on good terms with Pakistan, then we could have like just gone through Pakistan and then gone above. But it happened through Iran or like Saudi Arabia, and then we're making like those ports. We're making like something like an underground thing, which will be very long term. Of course, it'll take 25 years, but probably like 15 years. But I think that's a long term plan to like have those small ports, have those infrastructures, those systems in place that can that can get somebody in Chennai, somebody in Mumbai to sell his goods to like London like in like 2 days or 3 days because in current times our like the whole shipping system and the whole naval ways it's really bad. The turnaround time is like 10 days and like the best of the best Singapore is like 2 days or like 1 day or at times it's like 16 hours 15 hours, but for an Indian ship it's like if a ship comes from Brazil from Sao Paulo to India, for it to go back and like refuel and like for all of that to happen, it will take like 4 5 days. So we're trying to like work on all of those things. So yeah, hopefully we'll get there.
Yeah. How do you see China's Belt and Road Initiative? Does India have some partnerships with China in the infrastructure sense, or do you guys see them as kind of encroaching you or trying to steal some markets from India? Is there a bit of a rivalry with China as well?
I mean, yeah, man, like we in the 60s we had like 2 wars with them and then we lost both the wars and then China sponsors a lot of so many projects that China sponsors in Pakistan and in Myanmar as well, in Bangladesh. So they try to like corner you and like create pressure on you, right? That's they call it the string of pearls. They've made things in Sri Lanka as well. They're like doing things in yeah even Brazil, yeah, because even Russia, like that's their like biggest ally. It's like they are also communist. Russia had a history of being having communism, so those are their natural allies. They're trying to put pressure on them, like try to have them recognize Taiwan also. You know, all these people they recognize Taiwan as a part of China, but like India is the only one who's like, no man, it's not. Taiwan is not yours, it's independent. It's very complicated, man. I mean, they try to build pressure on us, and it's not like they're trying to steal markets from us because they already have the market. They're the ones who making it. We are the ones who trying to like have some of those factories, have those after COVID hit, like that was the sentiment. Like lot of these players who had to come to India, unfortunately they went to Vietnam and Thailand and they went to other places. We could have had those guys. Like they went to Bangladesh. So we didn't capitalize as well on the COVID thing. Like if 100 to have a facility in somewhere in those that vicinity, it was in Thailand or in Vietnam, majorly in Vietnam. Uh, and like of 100, probably not even 10 people set up shop here. Uh, so that's the long-term plan to have that kind of manufacturing that the way they had like you see made in China tags, right? We have made in China. So that's the plan that we have made in India, tag like which says made in India. And the rivalry thing, yeah, it's natural, man. We have clashes on the borders all the time. I'm not sure if you hear in the news that people even like there's a lot of terrorism that they sponsor, you know. In the northeastern part of India, which is like 7, 8 states, there's Bangladesh, there's Bhutan, there's Myanmar, there's Nepal. All of these places are 4 countries, okay? And they try to like pump in money to them, and they try to pressurize them. And there's so many groups in India, you know, which want a different state for them. Like they want to get a separate state for themselves because they think that the government has not done enough for them. And China like sponsors them, gives them money and weapons to like wage war against the state. So yeah, that happens, but like I think we're doing pretty well. That is one thing that Modi has done well. Like these all these factions which are trying to rebel against like the country against the state. He had all of them surrender. The many factions who surrendered. So that is his biggest achievement, I think. So yeah, they're trying to do it, but like we're not fools, right? We have very good diplomats. We have very good bureaucrats, and like Indians are also smart. We're not that dumb, so we'll get there.
Yeah, I'm sure you will. But do you guys do anything the other way around to try to irritate China as well?
I mean, of course, we might be doing things, but then, like we are never the aggressors, you know. But at the end of the day, you know, even the public, the citizens would never know. That is what they tell us. But then, what I gauge and what our history and culture has been, we would never be the aggressors. But then, why would you? We would not take shit from them, right? But then, at the end of the day, you never know who is what, who is doing what. But if you see satellite images, if you track their movements, they're trying to like set bases or camps. Like if they have a base here, tomorrow you'll see that they have a base here. Then they keep going ahead and they tell you that, oh, this is not part of India, this is part of China. So they're doing that, but I'm sure that even Indians are doing something, but definitely not as much as them.
So they're doing all of the classic plays in the playbook that the Americans used and other groups have used in the past, not only with India, but all around.
Like the expansionists, you're saying the
Yeah,
expansionism?
like China is doing this.
Yeah, that is what they're trying to do, man. They're trying to like corner us, and that is the string of pearls, right? So India's in the middle, and they're trying to get every country. That is, they have this Belt and Road Initiative, which goes from China to Europe, and like they wanted even India on board because that we are the only country in that whole region who would not sign up because we're not on good terms with Pakistan, right? And if we partnered with China and we are not on good terms with Pakistan, and China is sponsoring terrorism to Pakistan, they're having people infiltrate on our borders and all of that. So that arrangement would not work, right? But we're also doing our things, like I told you, the Saudi Arabia thing. We're trying to get into Europe. We're trying to build ports in Iran, the Gwadar port, and try to get to Western Europe. We're doing things in Africa with Japan. We have BRICS, right? We have Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa. So that is one group we are a part of. There are many multilateral groups that India is a part of, and there's a lot of lobbying, a lot of diplomacy happening behind closed doors. So we're not oblivious to all of these things, man. We know what shit is happening, and I think we are doing well for now.
Yeah, I think so. I think there are many things that we could learn from India and even from China here in Brazil to go towards our best interests and not. I think many times here in Brazil we're too like a puppy dog for the big guys like the
Yeah.
US or Europe.
So,
But
so
hopefully
So,
we'll
so what happened
change
in like
this.
Nicaragua? What are these like these the Central American countries, Belize, Nicaragua, like what these three, four,
Costa
five countries, right?
Rica,
Ah,
yeah,
yeah,
Costa
yeah,
Rica, yeah.
yeah. They had these contras send them and like take over the country, right? They want like this should be like an overseas American territory, whatever. Uh, but that didn't happen. They also wanted in those time. I think this was in the 60s or 70s, and that is where the game Contra. You know, you heard the name game Contra. The name
Hmm.
comes from those people like the vigilante groups who were fighting the Americans and all these people who want to take over the country and like have a puppet ruler, like have a ruler who is aligned to like American interests, who is not independent, who doesn't care for the public. So all of those things.
Yeah, here in South America, Latin America in general. We've
Yeah,
had so many puppet rulers and
yeah,
coups, and even some of the rulers that they have this nationalistic discourse. At the
yeah,
end of the day, they're full on puppets. They're
yeah,
they just have the discourse, but they don't do things that are really good for the national interest at the end of the
yeah,
day. They're just blurting, they're just speaking, but their actions are not good in the long run. But yeah, it is what it is. It's America,
yeah,
like China's trying to do with India, and at the end of
yeah.
the day.
But we do what we can do, right? It's not like if I was in America or if you were in London or wherever, it's not like the government is going to come and do shit for you. You only have to get up in the morning. If you want to get fit, if you want to work on yourself, if you want to become a good writer, if you want to play the guitar better, the government can't do that for you, right? They can facilitate it for you. They can probably open academies and uh, centers where you can go and learn it for free, but you have to go up and do that, right? So at the end of the day, it comes to you as an individual, right? You have to fucking get up and like give up that attitude. Oh, look at my life. I don't have anything and all of those things. So it comes down to the individual. So we can say all of these things, but then it's you that matters. If Gabriel doesn't want to do things, then it doesn't matter where he is. He may be a billionaire, man. He can be a fat billionaire who drive a Rolls Royce, drive and he travels in private helicopters or whatever. But he still will feel shitty inside because he knows he's not doing anything. There's no confidence. His money can't buy all of those things, right? And the government can't do that for you. You have to do those things for you.
Yeah, there is a phrase here that something like a good government is a government that doesn't disturb. Like it doesn't
Yeah.
need to help you or anything. Just don't disturb, just don't mess with my business. Let me do my thing. And there are many people who say something like that here in Brazil.
Government is something that is supposed to govern, right? It's they're facilitating you. It's not like they're giving you $1 million jobs or making your life. They're supposed to make your lives easier. That's true, but there's a limitation to all of that, right? Even the best governments, they can't do everything. You have to get up and like open a business or go to the office or whatever that you do.
Yeah, like you said, they can make a long-term project. They can make academies or universities so
Yeah,
that people get good training, and but after that they will have to work, they will have to have a company, a factory, and that's where they will get the real money, not from the government. The government may help facilitate, may help with planning, with like organizing. In the end, at the tip of the arrow, it's
yeah,
the people doing the work and doing the
yeah.
things they have to
That
do.
that's why the Japanese, that is why they give the example of the Japanese after everything that happened in World War, that whole country came together and they built what they are today. And I mean, Indians unfortunately don't have the attitude. I don't know about Brazilians, but we are like laid back and we like, in the villages, uh, even in Pakistan, man, that the culture is the same. In India also, like we'll eat well, and then this culture like we sleep in the afternoon, we go late, we are late at everywhere wherever you go, so that those things won't those things don't make a country great, right? That is why Japan, like Germany, all of those places, they rose up from nothing because of the people like did shit, right? They have to move their ass. Can't be sleeping in the afternoon. You have to do things.
Yeah, I think over here we are very laid back, but at the same time, there are many, many, many people that work on grueling, back-breaking jobs for hours and hours. And
Yeah,
we have this mentality like, oh, you need to work to get money. And it's many times
hard
people
work.
are just sort of, yeah, it's hard work, but not necessarily work that pays well or work that is
Yeah,
stimulating.
physical work. Yeah,
And I think if we could change a bit of this mentality and have
yeah,
people dare more and dream more and try to think more, how could I like do not only physical work, but some work that, like for instance, I'm doing this and it's a very hard labor, but what if I had some machine that could help,
yeah.
or you get what
Like a
I mean,
software. Yeah,
right? And yeah, like a software or like a machine or and there's like a kind of pleasure or a kind of a pride that people have on doing hard work that many
Yeah.
times doesn't even get you anywhere, but oh, I work so hard every day.
You
They're
know,
so
when I was
proud
in
of it.
school, I used to walk like 10 miles. You know, son, when I was in school,
Yeah.
I used to walk 100 miles, be on the boat, all of those things. But like, what did you do? Oh, don't ask that. Yeah,
Yeah, like
so,
so what? Yeah, like do you want us to clap for you? Because
but that was the norm that those days, right? Everybody was doing it. But I think that's one thing we should be grateful for again is that, just ha even having this psyche, this mindset that you're talking about, people don't have this mindset also because, the circumstances that they're in, their upbringing, all those things did not align with them to make them that person. And thankfully, if you have that awareness, you have that mindset, that's another, so many things to be grateful for, man.
no, definitely. I recognize that I'm very privileged in many senses.
Yeah.
But like we were talking about before of governments and stuff, maybe this type of thing could be one of the things that they could help with in terms of the education system, for instance, of helping not only give children and teenagers better life conditions, like even sometimes the child is hungry and the best thing you can do for their education is just give him some food and they will be much better for that day to learn. And also with the mentality, you can try to like put some of these things on people's heads. Like, don't just do the hard work for the sake of it. You can try to think of ways to make your life easier and you will be more effective.
Smart work, right? They call you should work hard at being smart. So if you're smart enough, you will, you don't have to do the hard work. You should be working hard at becoming smart. So yeah, I think we should change the discussion, man. It's getting too, it's too strong for me. If we can transition into something else.
Oh, no problem, man. Let's talk about teaching English because you have your 10-week program to teach people English. And like I said before, I love your background on Twitter or X with like the dog and showing without me it's a sad frowny face and then you say let's speak better and with you it's the Labrador dog. So how did you get the idea of helping non-native speakers get better at English and how does your program work? What do you want to talk about this?
Okay, so the idea was earlier also, I even like I write as well. I do gigs on the side, but there's very little traction that you get as a writer if you call yourself as a writer. There's a lot of very less differentiation that you have. So I added in my bio that I'm a lawyer, ex-lawyer who is a writer. So okay, that's still something that differentiates you as a writer because there's so many profiles that you come around and I don't know anybody who's an ex-rock star, right? That is one differentiator. Okay, I know okay, that guy from Brazil, Gabriel, he's an ex wannabe rock star, not a wannabe rock star. He's already a rock star, but like wannabe rock star and whatever dot 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 whatever goes ahead. So that is the idea, but then I later on realized that like even the ex-lawyer thing that also is not enough, and I realized that when I was in Spaces for very long, October, November, 1 month's time, I had added like 300 followers because of Spaces, and in the first 10 months, I was at like 180 followers. And while speaking on Spaces, I realized that I can talk fairly well. I can get across my point, and I'm not a native speaker. I'm not a native English speaker, so why not? The many people who are not who come from Europe or in Latin America, Africa, Asia, who don't have English as a language, and so many people who never come up and speak on the space, right? And that is what I thought that why is it that they don't come up and speak? It's because they probably don't have the confidence, right? They feel like, oh, I'm not sure what they're going to say, how they're going to judge me, and all of those things. So that is one reason that even if you have something to say and you can speak well, just not having that confidence to come up and speak, that also contributes. to becoming a speaker. That is one thing. Other thing is that as I told you, like I thought that I am fairly good at it, and if I can just break down for myself how I did it for myself, how I am able to bring my point across to the other person, and how am I able to communicate. If I can break it down for myself and like think, okay, like how did I get it? How did I get to this level, whatever level? Like even I am learning. It's not like I'm some whatever native level speaker, and it's not about being a native level speaker. Also, it just it's like if I don't know Portuguese, you don't know Hindi, and if you don't know English, then how are we going to communicate, right? So that's the only the thing we need it for. And I think beyond that point, it's good if you can speak it fluently and you have those words, phrases, analogies. But the basic thing is to like communicate and get across what you want to say. And yeah, that was the idea. I thought that if I can break it down for myself, if I can, pinpoint the things that I did unconsciously also. Like it was all unconscious, man. It was not like, oh, now I'm doing this and now I'm going to in 10 days time I'll reach this level of English, whatever. So it happened unconsciously, and I'm still adding things to that program and all of that. But yeah, that's what it talks about. It talks about the program, figured it out, of how I broke it down and how I got to the level, whatever level I am at this point.
Yeah, man, there's, like you said, many times it's more of a mental aspect thing that you get self-conscious. And there are many people that actually speak pretty good English, but they're just a bit shy of speaking for whatever reason. And do you think that your experience with stand-up comedy and those open mics helped you when you started going to spaces as well?
Yeah, man, all of that helps, Everything helps. If you break it down, everything helps. Going on stage. I've not done it like 100 times. If I want to do it 100 times, like just talking to you about it, I realize that it really has helped me, and I'll do it more often. On this, definitely I'll do it on this weekend. I'll send you a video also. And everything helps, right? If you're talking to somebody in the train in your local language, that helps. And then if you're talking to your boss you're supposed to address them in a certain way professionally in English, that also helps. If you're watching movies, that helps. You're watching shows with subtitles, that helps. Everything helps, like all of those things. If you're listening to podcasts, if you're making conversation, if you're talking in spaces, if you're reading the paper, if you're looking at the board, like if you're traveling in a car or in an auto or whatever, or if you're on the bike and you look at the billboard and you read if you read those three words, like if the board says, what are you waiting for, or the time is now, or like it could be anything. It could be a banner for an ad, uh, some crazy words, two, three words. All of that helps, right? That is how your mind is making those connections. Okay, so this word goes on with this word. Okay, so this is how it makes sense. This is how it's supposed to sound. This is how grammar works. So I did not. I was fairly good at English in school, but then I'm not very good with the rules, like how, like the past present tense of some word, like how it's supposed to be. I don't really know that, but I just know that the way it sounds, I make it out with that. Okay, that doesn't sound right. Probably there has to be some tweaking of the word. Uh, so that happens unconsciously, right? Because I have exposed my mind to the language so much that I don't have to know that past present principle, or I don't have to know punctuations, or I don't have to know like what is an adverb or a noun. I don't have to become a teacher, English teacher. That's what I focus on. Like I am not an English teacher. I don't have a degree. And that's not my focus. I don't want to be like, okay, now we are going to fill in the blanks, or now we're not going to do this or that. It's just something that helps you. I'm trying to help you with something that can help you make conversation. That can, if you're listening to something, if you're listening to a podcast, if you're in spaces, uh, my mission is to like do something for you that enables you to understand those conversations. It's not like you have to be 100% correct, but then after a point, if you reach a certain level, then that's the next step, that you be grammatically correct, that you have your tone and intonation and your pitch and volume. All of those things come after that. But then the starting point is to you know get the basics right, just like breaking it down. So it's that's what I my inspiration was.
Yeah, in the end, your approach to learning language is much more natural. If you think of when we were babies, we didn't go around thinking, oh, this is this tense or that tense, this is past, this is future, this is whatever. We sort of try to mimic what the adults are saying, and then we start saying, and as we, of course, make mistakes because we're little kids, then the adults will like help us with that and say, no, no, baby, this is not you, how you say it. You should say this instead of that. And little by little, you start acquiring these things and you start learning. And most of the time, unless you encounter someone who's a really big asshole, they won't tell you to your face, man, your English is terrible. You should never speak again. It's sort of the subconscious fear we have, I guess, but you'll never find someone who will say that to you. So if
Yeah,
if
but
you
then you
don't
should
give
know.
yourself the chance, yeah, sorry.
Yeah, exactly. You should be aware of that. And that awareness will never come if you've not exposed yourself. If you go on saying, if you say, his name is Vishesh, and nobody corrects you ever, and you're also not aware that you're not good at English, then you always say, his name is Vishesh, rather than saying, I am Vishesh or my name is Vishesh. So that awareness also comes after you've like exposed yourself, right? And the thing you're talking about babies, right? That is what they say, that we still don't know how they fucking learn whatever language. If there are five languages being spoken in the house, right, they'll know five languages. But if there's only Spanish or Portuguese or Urdu or Arabic or whatever language, those kids, they imbibe that language and they don't have to probably even go to school for that. They go to schools for that so that there's deeper appreciation for the language. I think that's the main reason we go to school and learn like English, or like we have some optional subject where you do have to have a third language. So the way it works here is that you have English. The school is English medium. You have your local language. Your mother tongue could be Hindi, could be Tamil, whatever, and you have a third language, is an international language, which can be Spanish or it's Spanish or German, or the languages that are spoken by most of the people. It's not Portuguese because I think the thing that they have is like, if the kid understands Spanish well or he understands German well, so probably later down in the line, if he has to go to Germany or Spanish, so it will be easier for him to get a PR there. Even if it's not about the PR, if it's just about going there and making conversation, so that's an advantage that they have. But the kid doesn't have to know, man. He doesn't have to go to school to learn it. It's just that, with if you keep reading, if you keep reading literature, if you read Hindi literature or Portuguese literature or whatever, just the appreciation of how the writer is, connecting words, how he's arranging words, phrases, how he has his analogies. Like if the poet is comparing freedom, this is a very basic idea. If the poet is comparing freedom of a human to like a bird who's caged in a cage, that's a very simple expression. But the way he's expressing it in words, how he's putting things across one after the other in that language, say in Portuguese. So that is when you read it as a kid and you're like, oh wow, man, like this guy compared this, like the bird being freed from a cage, and like humans being freed from like slavery or whatever. Those are the things we learn the language for, even though we might know it, like everybody in our house might be speaking it, but just those things, like having appreciation for that. That is, I think, that is the reason we learn those things in school. We go to school for that.
Yeah, this made me remember of there's a saying by Picasso
Yeah.
that's about the rules because as you were speaking, I was thinking of how the poets and the big authors they know all the rules, but like Picasso says, you have to know all the rules so you know when you can break them.
Yeah.
So they know exactly like one of the greatest novelists of all time here in Brazil, Guimarães Rosa, some of his books, he writes in a way that, at least for some characters of his, if you read it, there are so many things that are not correct.
Clear,
They're
yeah.
not the, yeah, no, not, they're clear, I guess,
Okay.
but they're not in the correct Portuguese or the
Okay.
Portuguese you learn in school
Hmm.
because he's using like the way that people really speak or he's inventing some things, but he knew the language so well that he could do this. Like at school, you won't teach kids to do it right away. You
Yeah,
need to teach them the right way, and then
yeah,
after you know it, then you can go and do your own
yeah.
thing. But
But he's still considered a legend, right? Even though he just fucked the words up, he's saying whatever, like whatever. What's the name of the author? What's the name of the writer, you said?
it's Guimarães Rosa, João Guimarães Rosa.
Suarez, okay. S. Imanez. Imanez, like, can you spell it?
Yeah, I'll send it to you on the DMs.
Okay. Yeah, so that's what it is, right? Even though he's not grammatically correct, but it's just that, you know, the way he's putting it and he's like forcing you to think like, oh, this is not supposed to go here. And like he's challenging the way you're thinking. That's why he's a legend. That is why Shakespeare is a legend, or, all these other people, they're not going by the book. They're not like speaking. They will be grammatically correct, but even if they're not grammatically correct, because they're forcing you to think in a certain way, they're forcing you to contemplate things and those ideas. That is why they are legends. That is why they're long gone, 300 years, 400 years, we still are talking about them, man. And that's what has set them apart, rather than just being grammatically correct and like maintaining posture and, being professional. It's more than that, right?
Yeah, at the end of the day, learning a language is about conveying concepts or emotions or ideas to other people. And what's important is that you can do this. It doesn't matter if you commit a few mistakes while you're doing it. And it's natural that you do because sometimes, especially with speaking right here, sometimes in the middle of the sentence, you kind of forget what you're going to say next. And we do these little mistakes all the time, and it's natural. You don't need to be perfect. It's not like you're the president on his first day giving a speech. You're just speaking to other people, and even if it's work, a mistake here or there won't get you fired.
Yeah.
So you don't need to worry so much.
Yeah, even like we are speaking right now, even when you're speaking right now, it's not like, oh, now this is what I'm going to say next, and then after that, I'll use this word, and then this word comes after that in this sentence, and then it goes in this structure, and this is this introduction, and this is body, and I'll conclude like that. I mean, that can be a structure to your whole, the way you're conducting this thing as well. There can be a structure to that, but it's not like you have be in the nitty-gritties of it. Okay, at this point, like 15 minutes in there, I'll ask him about this. I'll cut him here. I'll do this. It's not like that. It has to be natural, right? It's not only in language, even in other things, like if you're exercising and if you're saying to yourself, oh, I have to do 15 reps, and then you end up doing 17 reps, or you do 12 reps and you're like, no, it's supposed to be 15 reps only. There's no other way of doing it. There's no set way of doing it, right? In anything. That's why they say that there's no like definite way of success, right? You create your own way. You forge your own path. Your own path. It's not like, okay, this is the way and this is what you do by when you're 10 years old, and then you go here when you're 15, and then 25 you should be here. By 45 you have to be for. It's not like that. It's different for everybody. That is why it's fascinating, right? Somebody, if you read a biography of Bugatti, so this is one more thing I'm doing. There's this Founders podcast. Have you heard of it? The Founders podcast?
Yeah.
Yes, so I just got to know about like day before, and I've like heard like Coco Chanel's story and Bugatti's story and Christian Dior and Balenciaga, and all of these people had such different stories, man. It's not like they went by the book. There is no book, and the way they did it so different, right? Somebody's, and they don't have a background. Like Bugatti didn't have a degree, man. They didn't have like mechanical degrees like you have, and the way they did it, what they did, like somebody's making cars, somebody's into fashion, somebody's whatever. So same for language. It's not, you cannot go by the rules all the time. Rather, you should not be going by the rules. But for school, of course, if you have to get good marks, you have to go by the rules.
Yeah. Yeah, I think like you said, it's fascinating. It's the beauty of life that there's no true path that everyone needs to take. There is a bit of societal conditioning that, oh, if you are a lawyer or a doctor, that's a good career to pursue, so your parents will be proud. And we do have this kind of thing. But at the same time, many of the people that we think are the most successful, they didn't even get a degree, or they did get a degree and went to work with something that's totally different at the end. And like life's not a linear path. It's full of twists and turns and ups and downs. And that's what makes it fun. in the end, I think.
It's not predictable, right? It's not like I think most people that I know of, they're not pursuing law. They're not pursuing law to the like. They're not. Everybody is not like they're going to the courts. They might be doing things that are related to law, but there are many people who are doing. Somebody's doing something. Somebody's gone on. Like the friend I was telling you about before the call that he went to Canterbury like 6 months back. He was a professor, like a junior professor in some college in South India, and then now he's studying conflict resolution in Canterbury. And even though that's still related to law, but as such, it's not related to law. So his subjects were like he thought of anthropology and this conflict resolution, but he went with conflict resolution. But it could be anything else. Like if you're an engineer, it's not like you have to make it as an engineer. It could be that you make it well as an engineer. I'm sure you are still. Uh, but if you want to be a rock star, and that is why it's not like, oh man, I had it in my heart and like now I don't know, I have to do all these things. I'm sure you know this, but I'll still tell you, it's never too late, man. It's like you could be a rock star by your 60s, but I would want you to be like live like a rock star, like a musician as well, and also like a rock star in like normal life. And yeah, that is what I wish for you. You become musician, guitarist, whatever, and you have these tours like America. You come down to India also, and wherever, and you have fans all the way. So it's never too late, man. It's not like you're an engineer, you cannot be a guitarist. You never know what life's calling is for you, right?
Yeah, you're right. And even I think rockstar is a funny word because you don't necessarily even have to have, you don't necessarily need to even play an instrument. It's like that rock star aura, that rock star vibe, I think. And you're right, man. I think this is actually my purpose, or one of my purposes, to help people unleash their inner rock star. That I kind of comes in with the things we were speaking about before, like you not being so self-conscious about things, or about how I going to speak, how are people going to perceive me, how what will they think of me? Like by having this chill vibe, and you know, you just do whatever the fuck you want to do, and people will have to like they get what they get and you don't care.
They will
And
still say things.
by being
They will,
authentic about it, like they won't think you're an asshole or anything. They're just like, oh yeah, Vishesh, he's
he does that.
funny. He's that way.
Yeah,
Like you can
yeah,
get away with things
yeah,
because everyone is expecting you to like do some jokes and stuff. So
yeah.
if you do a joke that's a bit too overboard, they won't get upset. They'll be like, okay, he does that sometimes.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
That's the thing. Yeah, exactly. And it doesn't matter if you're successful or not, even if you're on the path, if you're doing what you're supposed to do, if you're doing something under pressure, if you're doing something you're passionate about, doesn't matter what you're doing about, they'll still say things to you. People will always say things, right? That they have everybody that there's a saying, right? That as many tongues, that's the saying in English in Hindi, that as many tongues, so many are the as opinions. So if you have 100 tongues, 100 mouths, there'll be 100 opinions. So that is the way we are, right? Everybody wants to comment and like have an opinion. Okay, so this guy, this politician, that is why everybody has a opinion on politicians or like government, and like, oh, we should have this party. Oh no, we should have that party. Oh no, his policies are not right. But fucking, they're not fixing their own lives, and they're having opinions about somebody else who has like probably like not even 1% bearing on what they will do. Doesn't matter what party comes into power. For a party and that party came into power, it's not like, oh my God, my life just fucking changed. They might have done good things for you that you're aligned with, that your interests aligned with, but it's not like you made like $1 an hour and now you're making $100 an hour. You're still making whatever, $2 an hour or $3 an hour, whatever the progression that you had. So it's everybody's still going to have opinions. So it's upon you if you want to like be bothered by them and like oh my God, what he's going to think about me and all of those things. And most of the time they're not even fucking thinking about you, man. You only are thinking about yourself. It's your obsession, It's your so fucking obsessed with ourselves that we think that, oh my God, they're looking at what I'm wearing, they're looking at my shoes, oh my, they're looking at my hair, or they're looking at what perfume I'm look at her, and then probably you're not even that girl. You look at her for once, or that guy for once, and then you look at the other guy, or you do what you do your own thing. but they don't think about you like, oh, look at that, oh, look at, but nobody thinks, only you are fucking thinking about yourself. And you have to get out that mindset.
Yeah, people are so distracted with their own thoughts and feelings that they don't they you don't have time to think like, okay, maybe you might be looking in the direction of someone, but you're
Yeah.
not even looking at them. You're thinking something else in your mind. And
Yeah.
it's funny because my cousin, he has sort of this project where he was doing some videos. So he
Huh.
would do things like go or
Okay.
like kind of scream
Crazy
or
things, yeah.
say something out
Yeah.
loud,
Huh.
obnoxious, and like
Huh.
just to film the reactions of the people. And
Huh.
like you were saying, they would like maybe look and stare a bit and then just go do their thing. Like they don't give a fuck. And
Nobody can.
that was the point that he was trying to prove.
Like he put this on YouTube, or like did he did it for himself, right?
I'm not sure if he posted on TikTok or something. I can ask
Okay, yeah,
him.
okay. So nobody like was like, okay, some guy doing some random shit, like let's go on with our lives.
Yeah, they didn't care most of the time, and he also did some like interviewing people and asking
Yeah.
them about some random things. But
Okay.
yeah, man, people don't care or they don't have the time or
Yeah.
and even the people that waste their time gossiping and thinking about other people's lives and they do this because they don't have anything of value in
Yeah.
their lives or good things to talk about themselves. So that's why they do it. Like if you're working towards something, if you're doing something you like, you don't have time to think about other people in a bad way. Like usually people that are achieving something, if they are talking about someone else is in a good way, they're looking like, look, that's so awesome that he's putting himself out there. That's so awesome that you sort of get this abundance mindset and you look for the good things and not like when you're speaking down to someone else, it's usually because you're self-conscious about something inside yourself and you're
Yeah.
like trying to put them down so that you get a little better.
Yeah, that's what they think, right? If you talk about them, then the attention of the mind goes to them, and they're the ones who are supposed to be blamed and all of that, and you don't have to take charge, and it's not up to you, and that's how we try to distract ourselves. And this is something that happened in my last office. Like I remember when I got my first job, like it was 2022 November, and I was very happy that okay, finally I got a job and all of that. It was a nice office, new people, all of those things. And November 2nd, I joined November 2nd, and November I like gossiped, went to like hang out with all the people. They used to like rant about whatever, like how this job it doesn't feel right and they don't pay well, and the boss is like that, and this all they'll talk about other colleagues. Oh, this guy did this, and did you know what happened then? Okay, whatever. And then December also I did that, and in January is it was my birthday, right? January 31st, 2022. I realized that fucking I'm going to turn 26, 26. Yeah, I'm going to turn 26. I haven't done shit in life, and fucking talking to these people like some gossip queens. And then I just like cut everybody off, and they used to like call me for lunch. Like we had lunch together, like for 2 months, and I was like, no man, I can't go with you guys. And they still like bitched about everybody. They probably even bitched about me, but I'm like, fuck them, man. And I used to go there and like I used to become a total loner. I used to listen to David Goggins and Eric Thomas and what's the name of this guy? Bob Proctor and no, so many like I used to listen to books like Audible and all those things because I knew like I don't want to like end up gossiping with people because it's such low energy. That we're blaming somebody else. You're saying, oh, look at them. Oh, they did this. Okay. Or that happened with that guy. And they'll take such so much. There's so much. It's so much. They just love it, man. They just like feel it like they get a kick out of it. Oh, what happened? The other guy, oh yeah, please tell me. Then this person like, no, no, I'm not supposed to tell you, and they're like trying to build this intensity. And this is also kind of storytelling. Even this is storytelling, but I don't want to be part of this storytelling. And yeah, that's like you just said that people gossiping and trying to blame others so they didn't have to look inside in for the misery. And that's the other weird thing, the people in my office still who smoke, and they'll fucking tell people to come with them to smoke who are not even smokers, so that they can't go alone and like they can't smoke by themselves, or they'll take somebody who doesn't do the thing that they're doing, If like I'm supposed to have lunch and they've already had their lunch, they'll be like, oh, come on, come with me now. But why should I come with you, man? I already had my lunch. And then they'll waste their time like 20-30 minutes. And the other person also, like, okay, I'll come with you. And this person is also wasting their time. They are also wasting their time. At the end, they're all miserable. When they sleep in bed, they'll be like, fuck, man, I wasted another day gone, just like that. And they'll be, full of guilt and all of those things.
Yeah, but I don't think many people are even guilty about it. They don't even
Yeah,
care
they
that
don't have
they're
the
wasting
awareness. Yeah,
time. I think this is something that it's good that we're finding a lot of people like this on X
yeah,
that have this awareness and we want to have our purpose and we're a bit pissed when people take us away from our purpose
yeah,
because like you said, oh, I don't want to waste a half an hour, 1 hour to go to lunch with you.
yeah,
If you're a person, like, of course, if it's someone you like or someone
yeah,
that, of course, but if it's something like just for the sake of it and you have something else to do, why will you waste your time?
yeah. That's the other thing, right? You have to maintain the balance because like we are social beings, right? We cannot be in isolation all the time. But then uh, that's another thing, like the road to success and being like different and getting whatever you want, that is very lonely. And you have to be okay with being lonely. And that is one thing that I was reading yesterday also. I was looking for images on Pinterest for my presentation that I'm making. And I searched on Pinterest, I searched for one man, like a lonely man, and it had like bunch of images. And then there was this quote by Osho. Have you heard of Osho?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that is what it said. It said that somebody who can like love himself being alone, and he likes his own company. If he can be alone and he li likes that, that is the like that person is like has like some in some ways like he's reached a certain level because it takes a lot of guts to like appreciate yourself and being lonely and doing the things that you probably like you could have been hanging out with friends and doing whatever, but you chose to be with yourself. And because being lonely, so many thoughts come to you, and knowingly or unknowingly you're always contemplating. And if you become aware of those thoughts, you can guide yourself. You can like forge a path for yourself on what you're supposed to be doing. And that is why in the end he says that that is the biggest form of love, because for him like the company of others doesn't matter, because he is just in love with himself, aware of what things he is doing or she is doing, and he's contemplating things, and all of those things just make him, I'm not saying it makes him a better person. It's not like somebody who's very socially active, who's like an extrovert, yeah, like an extrovert. It's not like an extroverts are like fuckers, but like I don't want to waste time, man. I don't want to waste whatever like 15 minutes also with somebody just for the sake of it, just like you said.
And since you brought up Osho, India is a place that's known for a lot of thinkers and philosophers and enlightened people in general,
Yeah.
and there are many meditation retreats and all that kind of things. How do you see it in India? Like, how do people there, do you take these things more seriously, or this self-fulfillment, these ideas of having things more on the inside than on the external side of things, like taking this more seriously? How do you see this?
Yeah, so as you said that, we have had a history, like a long lineage of thinkers and sages and seekers, and I think the most in the world, more than Europe, like Aristotle and Plato and Marcus Aurelius, and all of these thinkers came a lot later. Those people came like 500 years ago or 600 years ago or whatever timeline. But like Indian sages, they are like 4,000 years ago, like 5,000 years ago, man. It's like the start of like even if we were to equate it like the Stone Age, then like we had Bronze Age and Copper Age, all of those ages. Like when people were trying to find tools, I think people were probably trying to find tools in India also. But when you're trying to like uh, you know weave something or try to plow the ground or whatever, like we had people who like Even at that point, they were like already above all of this, and they were like, no, man, like this, I have my purpose is a lot bigger than this. And they would go in the forest and meditate. So that's the whole thing with Hinduism. That is how, that's the whole revivalism. That is what is happening, because everybody earlier here, all of them were Hindus, and it's not like you get the stamp of being a Hindu. Everybody. So the river Indus is a river which is separating Pakistan and like India, and the civilization, the Harappan civilization. In the earlier civilizations, we had the Harappan civilization, we had the Mesopotamians, the people in the Euphrates, like in to present day Turkey and Syria, people in Europe. So everybody who came from there, people in the Arab world, all of those people when they came to India, they called the Hindus, which means that somebody who lives on the other side of the Indus. That is what a Hindu is. It's the name of the river, Indus, and everybody who's living on the other side was a Hindu. So that is where it comes from. And the whole revivalism is coming from that, speaking from that angle. And speaking about the stages, like the Hindu mythology, we have like four stages, wherein the first stage you're supposed to be a good student. You have to be like you have to listen to your master, and you have to like be a very good. You have to learn things. And the second stage is Grahastha, which is like a homely. You have to get married, and you have to take care of your wife. You have to be responsible. The third thing is, I think you have to you have to take care. You have to fulfill all your responsibilities of your household, of your kids, all of those things. Means the forest, in which like they went to the forest. I think whatever age, I'm not really sure what the age was, but like what if you're 40 or 50, 55, whatever age, you go to the forest and you meditate. That's all you do. So the whole life was into like divided into these four stages. Everybody did that. And that's what we say, in Hindu mythology, we believe that earlier times we used to live for like hundreds and thousands of years. So this is the Kali Yuga, which is like the worst times. And in this times, the lifespan of a human is like 70, 80 years. And in the earlier times, like in the third era, it was like thousands years. In the second era, it was like 100,000 years. In the first era, it was like millions of years. So one man, one human lived for like million years. But like the last age, the dark ages, in some way, we're living for like 70, 80 years. And the way it goes is like by the end of this era, we're going to be living for like 5 years, 6 years, 4 years. That's how long a human will live. And even though science says that, like, uh, we are the lifespan of humans are by the book, that's what it says. Like, by the end of this, there'll be so much evil and cruelty that we'll be fucking living for 4 years, 3 years. Yeah, I think I got deviated from the question, but yeah, we've had a rich history of these sages and these saints and seekers. We had that.
So, in those times in which people lived for thousands of years, did they meditate for most of the time then?
Yeah, that's the story. The story goes that the sages who like who would like prostrate like this, they would do this and like be on one toe and like be on one foot, and they would be like this, and like this to keep chanting the mantras for thousands of years. And then like Shiva, if they're praying to Shiva or like Brahma, whatever god, the gods would fucking come down on earth if they're impressed by your penance or like your tap. That is what they call it, like tap. Tap means like to burn. And if you tap enough, like you've burnt yourself enough, and if you've prayed enough, then they used to come down on earth, descend from the heavens, and they'll ask you like, what do you want? And they are like so many crazy stories that they tell you, okay, this is what I want. And this story, I think, wherein he comes down from earth, he comes down from the heavens, and this sage tells him that whatever I want a wife, I want whatever. But in the end, what happens is that he says that I want to become like you. And the god is like, no, you cannot become like me. You're like a human and all. So I think he indirectly gets that Vardhan, or like that, like he's granted his wish, but like gods have to like take the form of something else to like kill him so that he can re-stabilize and like reinstate himself. That's one story. There are many crazy
Yeah,
stories like that. Yeah.
I've seen many. accounts like the monks that sort of got mummified because they spent so many years
Yeah, yeah.
meditating.
I think that one happened in Myanmar. Like the guy, he meditated for so long that he did it on purpose. That he was a Buddhist monk, I think, and he just starved himself, kept starving himself, and then it's a mummy. He became a mummy. Like he meditated and he became a mummy. So, and that has happened recently. I think 102 and not very far back.
And what would be the point of this meditation? Like, what would be the end goal of doing all of this? Would it be to go back to the infinite consciousness? What's the point in the end?
So most of them do it so that they can come out of this chakra of like life and birth, you know. So it's with the belief, which I am a strong believer too. Like as I'm growing in awareness, I realize that this is probably the whole explanation for why we have so much suffering and why we are born in a certain house with a certain family, certain conditioning, having certain number of means, resources. It's because you did some karmas, you had some baggage of some deeds that you did in the past life. And the story and so this is the belief that we've had 84 lakh 88.4 million birds. 84 lakh in Indian, like in Hindi, in English, in Indian context, we call it 84 lakhs, which means 8.4 million birds we've taken to become humans. And like we have to get out of this rut of becoming like an insect and then a dog and then a bird, whatever bird, and then this small microorganism like an amoeba, and then in the end, eventually you become a human. And just before you becoming human, we're a cow. That is the belief. That is why we pray to cows, because like that is we think that before becoming humans we were cows, and after the cow's birth you become a human. So that is the belief that if you absolve yourself of all the thoughts that you have, right? If you become completely neutral when you were as a baby, or probably even more than that, even when you're a baby, you have some thoughts, you have some karmas from your past life. And by meditating, by like letting go of those thoughts, like you're, uh, you know, uh, absolving your conscious of everything that you were in the past life, and that is what is helping you to never like come back to this human birth of like suffering, like going to school, then going to college, getting a job, and then married, getting so many, even though we might like it at times, but then it's still suffering, right? It's we can enjoy it, but like still a lot of pain and a lot of effort that goes into it. So that's the aim. Like you meditate so you can like get out of this rut of like being born again and being again dead and then again born and then a different form and then a different form. So that's the reason they meditate.
So if you get to a certain stage, you wouldn't need to reincarnate anymore then.
If I get reincarnated, what would
If you get to a certain stage with your karma and your
yeah.
path to enlightenment, you when you die, you wouldn't need to reincarnate or to have another life.
Yeah, so that is when you like that is when you get into the you become the infinite, right? That is when you become part of the whole cosmos. Like it's like they say that it's like you're a drop in the ocean and then you become part of the ocean, and it's like people are trying to take somebody's trying to fill water in a bottle, somebody's trying to get a big container, somebody's trying to get whatever. So that's the point. Like we want to get out of that rut of being like taken out from our source. That is our source, right? Being one with him. That is the source. And I think that's the reason like many people, even they're so successful, even if they're meditating, even if they're like their highest consciousness, even those people, even they are sad, because the human experience by itself is sad, right? It's lonely. You can have everything, but still I think there's something inside of us that still just never gets satisfied. And that is why people turn to this side when they realize that probably this is the way. And that is why there's so many foreigners like Westerners who come to India, because this whole thing that I told you is so much so appealing to them, and they realize that if this was really true, and that the fact that we're having so many reincarnations and births, if the only way to get out of this was to meditate, then why not? And then the deeper you go inside, that is what even Osho said, right? Like if you listen to him religiously, that is what he says, that if you go deep inside enough, you'll know what you were in every birth. You'll know what which because all of that is stored inside. That soul is the same It knew when it was a grasshopper and how it died, and when it became an elephant, and then when it became a dog, and in the end eventually became a human. But then for that you have to like go inside. It's not going to happen if you're going to gossip about people, if you're going to tell, oh, like if you're going to go out there and like, chat about like that guy said this, and like you're trying to like go away like, from your source, right? That is why that's the whole deal. Like you have to go deep inside to realize all those things.
And have you done a lot of exercises to go deep inside? And what did you find out when you did?
I have not gone inside, bro. I go inside, but it's like it's a long process, bro. It's like it's not difficult, but like it's a process. It doesn't happen even in years. Probably in years it doesn't happen. If your karmic burden is very high, probably it'll take you more than just a lifetime to get rid of this, you know? So that's the thinking that the earlier you get to it, the better. What I have realized is like I thought that I was a smart ass and then I do things right and all of those things, but then I realized you're a dumbo man. If you see things from the other guy's perspective, you realize that you don't know shit, and you think you know things, but you don't know 1%, 0.1% of anything. And that is what has made me open to many things, and that is why many times I think that I'm a fool. And it's very important to know that. And that is why I'm grateful, man. That is the reason I'm happy that I have this awareness that I can call myself a fool. But then that is the other thing, you don't have any ego, but then you become egoistic of the fact that you don't have an ego. That is the worst thing. That is the most lethal thing. Like you're saying, so this is the story that I heard Osho saying when there are three priests, okay? One is a Roman Catholic, one is a Protestant, and the third is whatever. I'm not sure what you guys have. There are three different categories. So one guy is like one priest is like, okay, we do the most charity. Okay, so the second guy is like, what do you do? He's like, we give the most amount of knowledge and all of that. The third one is like, what do you do? What's special about your sect? So he's like, oh, we guys, we have no ego at all. So, in the end, this is what he was trying to tell you, that the fact that he's telling you that we have no ego and we are like, we that's the special thing about us, that we don't have any ego. That just shows that you have so much ego that you're not accepting it only. And you have ego of the fact that you have no ego. That is what destroys. That is what,
Yeah, if you really didn't have an ego, you wouldn't need to tell other people that you don't have an ego.
yeah,
It's like, and people do this a lot, not only with ego itself, saying about ego, but with many other things. They try to reaffirm themselves like, no, yeah, I don't care about that. Yeah, but if you didn't care, you wouldn't need to talk about it.
exactly. They give you justifications, all these justifications that, oh, I don't care, I don't care about the boss telling me to do so much work. I don't care, I will do it. But they're like, oh my God, now I have to do all this work. It's going to be so difficult. Oh my God, I have to prepare for these exams. I have to do this presentation. I have to like go out and do whatever, whatever. But they just say it for namesake. They're fooling themselves only. That the level, the consciousness, the awareness is so fucking low that they say this, and in very next moment they're like, "Oh my God, I have to do this now." That is how the awareness is, how low that awareness is. And that is where I think the whole karmic thing comes down to, that you don't even fucking know how you're operating. You're one moment you're something and the other moment you're something. And why is this happening? It's just not because of your conditioning and all of those things. It has to be something bigger than that. And probably that is the belief that I have, that probably past lives and all of those things contribute to that.
Yeah, that's very interesting. And I think in India you kind of have the whole spectrum, I think, of, like you said, it was used for the caste system to justify some of the things in the caste system, I guess. But you also have the whole spectrum of people in very low levels of consciousness and also people in very high. So you have everything over there. Have you talked to people that were very high, and do you sense something like in the way they speak, or do you like feel their presence when you're close to them, those people with very high levels of consciousness?
Yeah, man. So many people, like, you just feel their aura. You just feel calmer in their aura. And it's very difficult to find those people because they probably just keep to themselves and they don't want to like corrupt their energy because it's so volatile, it's so it's fleeting. It's not like you have it now and you'll have it forever. You have to like protect it like a child. They just comes a lot of penance and like a lot of meditation and all of those. I think they've understood their bounds that they've had with their previous lives. And I have met few people, and then the kind of you know there's a word called ठहराव in Hindi, which means that there's stillness there. It's not like they're trying to run away from this moment or okay, now I have to do this, I have to go to office. Okay, the time is this time I have to now sleep, now I have to get up, I have to like work out, I have to write my journal, I have to eat this, I eat healthy, whatever. Is they might have it at the back of their mind, or they might not even have it because it's so programmed in them that okay, we now I'm here, I'm just going to be here. I'm not. That is why there's this silence, right? That is why they love silence. They don't even talk because when we're talking, we're just talking about the future or the past. That is what we're doing right now. We're going away from the presence. Okay, you're asking me, okay, did you meet somebody like that? I'm like, yeah, of course I met somebody like that. Okay, that guy, I felt his presence, I felt his silence. But then those guys would be like that is why they like silence because they want to just being in this moment and like experiencing it in its fullness. That is what Osho says, right? That is why he went on these long fasts of like not speaking because he just wanted to feel the presence even more. And the more you speak, the more things you do, you sort of like deviate away from that core and you go far further away from yourself.
Yeah, this is so interesting to
You can go and talk
think
about this for
about.
hours, bro. It's crazy.
It is indeed, and especially because in Western civilization, I think people have this idea that you have to be very loud and very vocal, and
Yeah.
if you are silent, you're weak or you don't have the courage to speak. And I really like this more introverted aspect of Indian culture, to be honest.
Yeah. There are all kinds of people. Like there've been sages who've been like very, very vocal about themselves, and they're even those sages are celebrated. But the ones who are silent and they are the. It's not like they're better or they're more this thing, but uh, just I think different things appeal to different people, right? If I'm very loud, I'm something that is very somebody who's loud would appeal to me. But if I'm sort of introverted, I don't like to mingle with everybody. I'm silent. I would kind of try to hang out with those people, and those are the people I resonate with.
Yeah, me too, man. I resonate much more with the introverts or the ambiverts, or at least there are some extroverts that are a bit more, well, they don't feel the need to speak all the time and they can extract some of the best things from introverts. I think a duo of an introvert and an extrovert can be very powerful if you learn to leverage both the capabilities of each other. Many of the power couples or the power duos in history and in art have these like it's like the yin and yang, and
Yeah,
you try
exactly.
to leverage
That,
both.
that is what I was going to tell you. That is the when you said power couples, that is the word that came in my mind, yin yang. And you know why that happened? It's because we're in sync with what we're talking. Your vibration is fucking coming through this mic, through wherever the wires in those networks, and wherever you're sitting and wherever I am sitting. It's not because we don't have to be physically close also. You don't have to sit in front of me. I just thought of the exact same word, yin yang, when you said power couples. I think it was Cleopatra, and I heard Coco Chanel's story on Founders podcast, and she was like, she could be the yin and she could be the yang or whatever. Like the one person has to be a certain personality, and the other person has to be a certain personality. But I think as an individual also you have to balance it out. You have to have those both the parts.
Yeah, it's kind of an equilibrium of sorts. And it's funny that you said this right now because also in a few moments in our conversation, I also kind of was thinking something and then you just said it like when you talked about going to the gym and paying attention to what you're doing.
Yeah,
And I was thinking something very similar to this while you were talking as well.
exactly. Synchronicity, right? Synchronicity they call it, right?
Yeah, and I think this is something that I'm learning lately that we kind of get these transfers of energy or a vibration of consciousness of whatever you may call it. So, you know that thing that says if you want to change the world, just change yourself. And it's a phrase that's super, a bit of woo-woo, a bit of self-help. At least in the West, people always water down everything. So we tend to not understand the point that people were actually trying to make.
Yeah,
But as the more I go into it, the more I see that it's true because when you're feeling good about yourself, when you're with a good vibe, with good intentions, you go into a place when you have that aura about yourself, good things tend to happen. Like people will smile at you, people will be more open to you. You might even get little things like you ask for a coffee and you get something like a little gummy bear, like the guy didn't even need to give you something, but he gives because he's happy that you're there for some reason. And the more you go into it, the more you try to look into your thoughts, your actions, your feelings, and try to steer yourself in a way that's, I think it has to do with everything we were talking about lately about these enlightened paths and meditating and just being an overall more positive person, the world around you starts being better and you start seeing the good things and the opportunities and you look at a tree that you never noticed before and you start seeing the flowers in the tree and it's like it's all inside. You may be in a shitty situation and feel good, and you may be a millionaire and feel bad. So, if you can choose this, why will you choose to feel bad? There's no point.
yeah. It's the lens with which we see, right? If your lens by itself is, if it's a dirty lens, you'll see that everything is dirty, right? And then if you're wearing a fresh pair, if you're wearing clean glasses, and even this happens to me also. Like if I'm on the road and I see if I'm thinking of something, and I will see things that are on the billboard, like if it's an advertisement, and it will say exactly the same thing, or something that's some sort of a signal that I get from the universe that okay, this is right or this is wrong or whatever, and you find it in the like the weirdest of places. And that is what you said, that you notice things like you notice a tree, you notice the flowers, or you notice some weird things. And I think it's there's some part of the brain, whatever system, reticular system it's called, which like eliminates all the chaff, like all the like nonsense, which allows you to concentrate on like a single thing. And when you're in that state of mind, you like your brain is just like one after the other. It's like you see this, you see that, keep spotting things. Your brain is like, okay, it's like on auto command, and like it starts spotting these things in the craziest of places. Like you never expected to see something in a public toilet, and I would see something like that, something there, and I'd be like, wow, man, like I never expected to see this here, or like make that connection in my mind. My mind will make that connection and be like, wow. And then there's so many things that happen like that. There's the small miracles, and you just have to be aware of those things. Just have to build that awareness. And that is where meditation, like you said, right? That is where meditation comes in. Like the deeper you go, the more you have this realization of, and you're able to appreciate it more.
Yeah, and when you start thinking of the positive aspects and seeing the beauty in things, it's like you said, it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy. You always see more and more and more. And the same way happens in the opposite way. If you want to see the bad in things, you will always see more and more and more. And you get in this loop that goes down. But if you are aware of this, if you know this, why not try to make your loop go up so you will feel better, you will see things that will help you, like you said, small miracles that are everywhere, those little synchronicities, those little things that you might read in a billboard or somewhere totally random, and this will give you an idea that might become even a book or something. You never know. So
Yeah.
by being open to this, you just open so many doors, so many pathways to good things.
Like why would you choose to like focus or like have your attention on the negative side, right? But then that is where karma comes in, I think. That certain people, because they're so burdened, like they're probably more inclined to think in a certain way. I might be wrong, but that is the way I like rationalize it. Our brain tries to rationalize everything. Why are people living in the slums in the favelas, and then people are like billionaires. They're fucking the forest. They're taking resources of the forest, and they're fucking the tribal people in the forest, like in the Amazon also. They're displacing them, and they don't have jobs. And then when those people come to the cities, they're looked down upon, and they can't find jobs. And why is that? Why is that they are living in that certain way while somebody is who's a dick, who's you know he's a billionaire, he's born in whatever. So I think everybody pays the price in the end, and in this lifetime itself, and also like eventually. That is my belief, and that is the reason I think in Hinduism, that is why we don't consume uh, like non-veg food, like chicken and eggs or whatever. That is the reason I think we try to like, we have the biggest population in the world, but like per capita meat consumption is the lowest in the world of Indians, and the per capita consumption of milk is highest per capita in the world, and production of milk in the world, highest milk per capita milk production, highest per capita milk consumption, and lowest per capita meat consumption. So it comes from that whole philosophy that you don't want having chicken, having turkey, having whatever, and like keeping the body as free as possible of the analogy is like, the soul is like a cloth. The soul is like a cloth, and if you like burden your soul with all these things, then that light cloth, it becomes like dark, like heavier and heavier, and then you won't be able to go up, because the heavier the cloth becomes, like it pulls you down. And then those what pulls you down is like, it's those lusts that you have, like the seven sins that you guys have, that we have, that pulls you down to doing all of those things, like greed and gluttony and all of those things. So you want to keep that cloth light, and so that it can go up higher up.
And in terms of vegetarianism, and like you were saying before, that in Hindu culture, you believe that you are born as a grasshopper, or you kind of go up through the
Yeah.
scales of different animals until you go to the cow and then the human. So, in terms of that, so most people in India barely eat meat or don't eat meat. And like you said, you guys consume a lot of milk and milk products, but if I understand right, you don't eat eggs and meat, of course. So how does this shape Indian culture, especially considering the food stuff and the typical Indian diet? Is this something that comes especially then from the religious background?
I'm not sure if I got the question. What you're asking, like the dietary choices of Indians?
Yeah, like the food culture in India is very influenced by this background of this belief that people are reincarnating. So if you're eating an animal, then you're eating a soul, like you're killing a being that has a soul that might turn into a human sometime.
Yeah, so many people won't like be even conscious of this, but for generations that thing has been there, right? So they don't have to be conscious of this also. It must be something that has been in the generation, in their family for years and years. And that is why the many people who won't have rooted vegetables, like they will not have ginger, they'll not have potatoes, something that's rooted that grows in the ground, then that something has to be uprooted from the ground, because like you literally took the soul out of something from the ground up. And they have like things that grow up on top, like something that's hanging, like fruits or veggies or whatever, like grains and all of those things. So that is the belief, that, but it's not like that. Like in cities, you'll see like everybody has non-vegetarian food. It's not like, I'm not making a generalization, but there are many people who like they enjoy non-veg biryani. They enjoy chicken biryani and chicken tikka and butter chicken and all those Mughlai foods that we have. But yeah, I think there is this thing of 84 lakh, 8.4 million birds that we took. That is time again, directly, indirectly to many people. And even the Buddhist, the Gautam Buddha, he was born in a Kshatriya family, which is like a warrior clan. He was born in a king's family. He was born in a Hindu family, and then he went on to become a Buddhist. And there's this story which says that there's Ananda. Ananda is his disciple, and he's also his cousin. And Ananda asks something to him, and then in reply, Buddha says that in your last birth, you were an elephant, and there was a fire in the jungle, and you're like you had four like you have 4 feet, and then your first like your left hand, there was fire in the jungle, and there was a rabbit sitting below you, right? And then the rabbit was not aware that there's a fire in the jungle, but like you did not move your foot because you thought that if you put your foot down, he might be dead, like he might be crushed, or he might run away, and he might be dead in the fire. And like you killed yourself, and you collapsed and you were dead, but you saved the rabbit. And that is why you have this birth, you have this privilege of being with me, of having this birth. And then he took the birth of Ananda, and like he became a disciple. And like Ananda, he has different names, but his birth name was Ananda. And like in different parts of Asia, in Myanmar, in Thailand, in Tibet, they have different ways of calling them, and they're prayed and revered everywhere in the world. So uh, that single thing of like he saving the life of a rabbit, that came from his previous life, and like Buddha made him realize that. And yeah, that's one story.
Oh, that's so interesting. So, would you say that Buddhism is the second greatest influence in terms of religion and philosophy in India then?
Actually, no, I think the many people who have been, they've taken off from the whole Buddhism thing. There's a lot of Islamic influence now. It's not totally Hinduism. Uh, they are the minority. They're like it's like 1%, less than 1% are Buddhists. Uh, Jainas and Buddhists are like 1%, less than 1%. That's what has been unfortunately like the Brahmins, the upper caste, when the Buddhists were trying to rise up, like the Buddhists, the Brahmins, like my forefathers specifically, uh, they like made sure that Buddhism doesn't come up and grow. And unfortunately, that is why we have less Buddhists than in Sri Lanka or in Myanmar, or like there are more Buddhists in Sri Lanka, more Buddhists in Myanmar and Bhutan. Bhutan is a totally Buddhist country. Sri Lanka is a totally Buddhist country because like the clergy of the Hindus, they made sure that you know Buddhists ran away because they were really like gaining popularity among the masses because they were against caste. It was not like you cannot eat from my bowl and all of those things. And he was against like like worshipping the idols and all of those things. And the Brahmins did not want that. They wanted the way that they have been for generations. Like the kings, they called priests, right? They called priests and gave them gifts and like gold and like horses and elephants and whatever. And Buddhists were like, what the fuck is this? Like, why do you want this? Is nonsense. But then the Brahmins ensured that this did not happen. So there's a lot of Islamic influence actually. So the way Hindus get married, we apply mehendi, something that women apply in their hands. It's like a tattoo with a certain medicinal. It's like a herb. You crush it and you make mehendi. That comes from Islam. Then the burqa that they do, yeah, the parda that they do. Traditional families, they don't show out their women, like even Hindu families. So that comes from Islam. Our food comes from Islam. There's a lot of influence. Like they took a lot influence from us, and we also took a lot of influence from them. We wear bangles, and the Muslims, Indian Muslims, or a lot of them, they took the culture of wearing bangles. Like women started wearing bangles, and so there's a lot of influence, man. It's unfortunately it's not Buddhist because like they are the minorities now. It's like one less than 1%.
Yeah, that's interesting, man. Seeing
Yeah.
all of these influences between the cultures. And I'd like to ask you some questions that I typically ask people. For instance, what were you obsessed with when you were a kid?
Yeah, I was obsessed with expressing, as I wrote there also. Like I was not even aware, I was not even conscious, but I was in the tuk-tuk, like in an auto. The day before yesterday, I filled that form and expressing just talking or like drawing or writing, anything, something of that sort, like putting my thing out there. That is what I was obsessed with. But then it got lost in the way. I mean, I think just times it didn't happen. And then thankfully, I think just now, like in the last 1 month, in all my life, and so happens in the last 1 month that all those things, like that is the reason I thankfully I became a content creator officially transitioning from the whole law thing. And I think that's the reason I did law also subconsciously, because I wanted to express, like, go in the court and do whatever. But I didn't do that. But I wanted to express myself and like be heard and all of those things. And thankfully, like, I have a job right now which involves me doing that.
Yeah, you were talking before that you like going to stand-ups or open mics, and that now you're working with a guy who was one of the greatest coaches in India, and you're working with him. So how is this work? How do you like it? How is his influence in you, and what have you learned from him so far?
Yeah, so the many things which he says which are very profound, but like thankfully because I was already in that state of mind which in wherein I was like constantly listening to these things, learning, reading those things. So many things that he says do not sound as profound to me, but just being in his presence and seeing, like, when he says things to people, people are like, oh my God, look at him, what did he say? But then there are things that I thankfully was already, because I was exposed to all of those things, uh, I had a little more awareness that, okay, this guy says this thing, but he took this thing from whatever book and then he put a spin of himself, like he put his take on it, and he realized that, okay, this is how I should be saying it. But apart from that, his no nonsense attitude he has, he doesn't take bullshit from anybody. If he tells you to do something and you don't do it, he'll fucking like rip you apart, he'll abuse you, he'll like say all kinds of nasty things. You cannot imagine that 60-year-old guy, no, telling those things to his employee, like, fuck you, motherfucker, like, how, why the fuck are you here? Do you think this is what he said to a girl, He said, like, she did not get her workbook. So you were in an event, and like, this is how he sells, okay? So he shows his workbook to the people and he's like, okay, look at this workbook. I have been filling this workbook for like 23 years, last 23 years. And he has like 7, 8 workbooks, different for different subjects, for different purposes. Like, one workbook would be like for what did I overcome today? How did I break the status quo? How did I exceed my expectations? All of those things. So he's showing around, like he's shuffling through the book. He's like, okay, look at this, 13th March 2023, I was here. Okay, and that is how he's influencing people, right? That is how he's telling the audience, okay, so you should, if you come with me, if you're with my program, all of that, you can also become this. Then, like, one of all the employees are supposed to maintain one of those books, and then he calls a girl and he's asked, like, do you have that book? And she's like, yeah, I have that book. Okay, he's like, come on, bring it up. So she goes back, and I was sitting there, and she's looking for the book, like, where is it? And then fortunately, she actually bought it, but she became so anxious that she's not able to like find it. And then she's standing in the background. She's like, no, I don't have, nahi hai mere- I don't have it. He's like, you don't have it? Okay, you sit. Okay, and then 2 hours pass, and I thought it's okay. He's chill. He's like, okay, it doesn't matter. Then everybody goes to lunch, and he's like, he calls me also. He's like, you also come. Okay. Then he's like, what is this behavior? Okay. That is how it starts. It's like he says one thing, and then later on, like 2 minutes into the conversation, it's like he's like, motherfucker, bitch, what is wrong with you? You're a woman? Are you just going to produce babies? If you, what do you think? Like, you powder yourself and you put lipstick and you come here and you think you're a professional? It's not like that. This book I sold so many things because of this book, and you're supposed to tell people, and you're not maintaining this, all of that. And then the girl is like, I'm sorry. And he's like, don't fucking say that to me. You fucked up and now you're saying sorry. Of course you're not sorry. If you were sorry, you would never be doing this and all of those things. And he's like, fuck off from here. I don't want to see your face. And he was almost going to like tell her to like leave the company. But the boss of that girl, he was also standing there. He's like, sir, please, 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 sir, please, sir. He's like, I don't want to see the face of this girl. I tell her to fuck off. Then he told her to fuck off. And I was just standing here, and this girl was standing here, and I was like, oh my God, he's so badass, and all of those things. So, uh, that's one thing I realized, that you have to be, you have to be willing, you have to be courageous, you have to do those things. He can say it because he has authority, right? Like, he built that authority, and he over time built that authority. So if you want to have that thing, if you have to have a word, like, you have to, if you want your word to have some weight, you have to do those things, right? It doesn't happen just like that. So many things I'm learning from him, man. And then 31st, it's my birthday. And yesterday we were at an event, and he's like, on 31st we're going to close a client. That guy's like, whatever, he's a multi-millionaire, and like he wants me to come and do shows for him and all of that. So I'll go with him. He's like, you come with me, and he wants to sit for about whatever. And then like, I'm just getting exposure of all these people who are like, how he talks, how he closes the deal, how he conducts himself, how the other party, how that guy is trying to like butter him and like, oh my God, sir, you are the best. Oh, you do so great. You speak so well. And this guy is trying to like, okay, he's trying to gauge him. He's like, okay, seeing him like he's judging him for whatever. Like just that whole conversation, being in that whole environment, that's a very big privilege. Not many people have that. So uh, I'm looking forward to that meeting, and that's what I'm learning here.
Yeah, that seems very interesting. Just by being on those rooms and being able to meet with these people and rub off on their ideas and their habits. And I've, yeah, like you said, you probably are learning a lot and much quicker than most people ever do. And that's super interesting, man. And also, most of your boss's clients must be like those super badasses, like big businessmen, big guys. So you get exposure to so many interesting people.
Yeah, the businessmen, the many people who are like, they're like, I have been at, so in US dollar terms, it would be like, I'm at 2 million for past 5 years or 10 years, and I've not been able to grow my business. And if you look at those guys, the way they're dressed, you cannot tell them that they're multimillionaires, okay? And by Indian standards, if you're doing business of 2 million worth in a year, you are like in the 0.05% of the whole population. So there are people who can absolutely buy whatever they want, and the way they choose to dress, it's like absolutely so pale and so it's so normal, right? That's what I liked about it as well. It's so they're so fucking simple. I thought they'd be like full studded, booted, suited, like them all like proper. They'll be proper. They're like all like normal people, which is like that's another way of being. And then they go and like they're like, okay, like how do I do this? Then he'll tell them, okay, you need to delegate this work. You get a HR guy, you get an accountant, you get somebody in sales, you get somebody in marketing. How do you delegate work? How do you hire the right person? How do you there's so many things in a business that I didn't know. Like as a layman, I was like, okay, this some one guy must be. He breaks it down for them and tells them, okay, now in this session of this class is called Gurukul. So the name of the course is Gurukul, which actually is an ancient word which means school. Gurukul means Guru means the teacher and Kul means like a congregation. So Guru is like the teacher and Kul is like the congregation of. So it's the Gurukul, like the entrepreneurship Gurukul. So it's the school for entrepreneurs. So it's like, okay, in this session of whatever, I'm going to teach about delegation. Okay, in this session, I'm going to teach you about creating a vision, like creating a vision card for your company, creating a brand promise for your company, creating like whatever, like there can be 100 things that he tells you. So he has divided these sessions into different phases. It's like a 15-month course, and there's so many things, man. I mean, I just, it'll be on 29th, it'll be 1 month. And thankfully, I get to work very closely with him. And tomorrow also, I have a meeting with him. I get to show him a presentation, and like he gave me a lot of inputs, like this is how you should make it, and like create a story around it, ask questions, keep asking questions so I can interact with the audience. So click, if I click on the slide, okay, I'll be like, okay, do you have this problem? Okay, do you have this problem? Do you have this problem? He'll elaborate on that question. And then eventually, after some slides, he tells you the solution. How do you get through these problems? So the many things, man. It's very hard to break down for me also because I'm also like unconsciously learning things. It's not something I should be probably more aware of it, but it's a lot of unconscious things happening.
Well, yeah, just by listening to you speaking about it, it seems like you're learning a lot, and I like the way that he breaks down things to the most important details and goes deep into things. And yeah, as you said, that's why he's built so much authority that he can say the things that he says to people, and you don't even take it a bad way. It's just the way he is. He didn't get where he got for nothing. He way of working, and he has this very high standard that he puts himself to, and he wants everyone that's working with him to do the same.
Yeah, I mean, his story is that like he was born in absolutely like the favela equivalent in India. He was born there, and then He said that in the morning I used to go and throw newspapers, drop newspapers. In the afternoon I was an accountant. In the evening I used to like teach tuitions. I used to like help students so that I can make some money. But then eventually I realized that and then like he said that I had people coming from Singapore, like my friends who went to Singapore, who went to America, they would get like shirts for me. I used to get them, buy them in 100 rupees. I used to sell them for 105 rupees, 110 rupees. I used to sell them for 160. That is how he's trying to make his ends meet. And he's like, everybody's out at my door wanting money. Like the milkman is here. The electricity has been cut because I don't have money to pay bills and all. And then eventually he worked his ass off, and now he has a Maybach. He sits in a Maybach. He wears Burberry and Cartier, and like he's a proper swagger. Yeah, he has a lot of swagger. But yeah, the company also is like, unfortunately we don't have as many sales. But that is what I was telling him, like, sir, don't lose heart and like have faith and all, because the companies, the monthly expenses are like 50 lakhs, and just now, like on 26 January, we're still sitting at like 15 lakhs. So there's a deficit of 35 lakhs, which is 3.5 million Indian rupees, which would be, it would be like about 8 deficit. So that he has to put all of that money through his pocket. So that's a lot of money per month. And it's because he's probably saved and all of those things, and he's doing other things, and probably the next month will be better. But he's living it, man. He cannot like run away from this, right? He's teaching people to be strong and solid, so he can't he can't budge himself, right? He has to live it as well.
Yeah, but apparently what I'm getting from what you're saying, he does fully live with it, and it shows in the way he talks to people and the way he works, and I'm sure he will figure a way. I mean, it's probably not the first time that he has had such a problem anyway, right?
He had many ups and downs, bro. He's telling that in COVID, like we just bought a new place. That was the second place we bought, and like 2 months after we bought the place, COVID hit us, and then we had to leave the place, and we didn't get the deposit. And before that, the income tax authorities came to us, and apparently like the guy who was the owner of the office, he owed the department whatever, like for 500,000, about $500,000, and he ran away. And then he's like, we didn't get the deposit there as well, and then you were evicted, and then now we are at a small office. And he's really sad that like he sold 5 houses, bro. He sold 5 houses in COVID. He had 6 houses in Mumbai. He sold 5 of them so that he could keep the company alive. In the sixth house, he lives in the sixth house now. So he said that I every day I have like hundred thoughts of like quitting the company and like just shutting it down and just leaving and like relaxing, but then that's not who I am. Uh, so yeah, it's I get to learn a lot from him. And when I'm talking about him, I realize that how lucky I am, because people who were with me in college and all of those places, they might be earning more than me, but they still hate those jobs. And I mean, even if they're making more money, it's just that once the X thing takes off, it's like you get one client, and like because the wages here in India are so low, even the ones who are making decent money, even if you have like one client, you'll be ahead of them in like 15 days, 20 days. Uh, so that's the good part, I think, because of the conversion rate.
Yeah, and also your learning curve must be so steep just by learning with your current job and with your boss, and you will be able to leverage this so much with people in X, people outside of India, and also with people inside of India. Like just by saying to your friends, "Oh, I'm working with this guy," I bet that many of them might feel a bit jealous, and especially because I guess that his product, his coachings, his teachings, his courses must be pretty expensive. So just by being able to be there and you're getting paid for it, you don't even have to pay anything. I think just by doing this, like in 1 or 2 years, you will be set for your whole life with so much knowledge.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. It's like the cost of his program is like the Gurukul program, like the ones that he does every month, that is like $5,100 for a year. That's a lot of money in India. So $5,000 is like 4 lakhs, 400,000 Indian rupees. It's a lot of money, and I mean, I get to be with him, and like see him in action, and don't have to pay anything. And people in my college, they're still doing the same. They're still getting, many are still liking, they're drinking, still doing same things. They're, just numbing whatever. I don't know what they're trying to numb. They're not working out. They're just, sleeping around and just getting happy with that. So I think, and I think many of them will get married in the next year or two, and they'll be like, okay, this is all it was. This is all my freedom. This is what my freedom was for. And then, with marriage, all those hundred other things will come up, and yeah. So I'm lucky in that way, I think.
Yeah, man.
Are you married?
No, not yet.
Okay.
How old are people typically marrying in India?
So people are getting married very early also. Like even in the cities also, like many of my friends who are 23, 24, they got married at 23, 20. Like I'm 27, I'll be 28 on 31st, and many of them will get married in 27, 28. But anything after 21, 23, 23, 24, like yeah, average age would be like 24 to 26 for girls also. Not many girls who are like single when they are when in their late 20s. But you find many people, like it's not like generalization, but many will get married by their time they're 25, 26. Because we are conservative, right? Most of us are conservative. So they want to be get done with you want to get done with those things. The family's like, you have to get married now, you have a job, you have a good enough job, now you have to get married. Then you have to have children, then you have to get fucked, and then like you forget about what you want to do. You just you get into that rut of like all those problems, issues that come with those things.
Yeah, it's like that laundry list of things that you need to do, and by the age of 18, you need to do this, and then that, and then this.
Yeah. Exactly. Oh, how old are you?
29.
29. Okay. Are they
Yeah, my,
are
my
you
friends are only starting to get married now.
yeah, like are you guys conservative there also? I think not as conservative, no.
Yeah, it depends on what you consider conservative, and I think there's a lot of older people are more conservative in
Yeah, of
general.
course.
I think in terms of, well, yeah, the sex taboos in general, that kind of thing, we're not that conservative, but there are many conservative things in our society, yes.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think it also depends on social status and other things like that, but I see most people tend to marry here on their late 20s, early 30s, around the age of 30.
That is, there's one quote that I read which said that like older you that the older you grow, the more you get on the right side, you get on the right wing, and the younger you are, the more rebellious you are. That is why what you see, like all the revolutions and everything that happened everywhere, like mostly young people did it. But as they age, they become more conservative. They don't want immigrants from outside. They don't want these new technologies taking over, because they're used to a certain way of things being, right. They're not open to change. They don't want, okay, now artificial intelligence is going to take over the world, but I don't want that. I haven't seen artificial intelligence for 70 years. Why out of nowhere, if this is going to come up and like change the course of my family's life, I don't want that. So as you age, you become more conservative. That's true.
Yeah, and I think it's kind of natural with how our hormones work. And
Yeah.
it's funny because when you're younger, you want more of the new stuff. You want to like go to enjoy the nightlife and that kind of thing. And as you get a bit older, you start that those things start losing their appeal. So you don't see much of a point on staying up through the middle of the night. And like yesterday, I went to a bar with a couple of friends, and it was like 10 in the like 10 p.m. home.
Let's go. Exactly.
Yeah, it's we don't need to stay here until 1 in the morning. There's no point, right?
Yeah, if you were 20, 21, 24, 25, whatever, you would have been like, let's like have more and be there for like 12, 1, 2, 3, whatever. But then now that is what maturity is, right? You realize, okay, this is not serving any purpose, it's futile. Rather do something else.
Yeah, because exactly, it's about purpose. Like,
Yeah,
why will I do this?
yeah,
Unless it's something, oh, this is a special occasion, this
yeah,
something is happening, but Why do you want to go on a random Tuesday and stay up until 3 a.m.? There's no point.
Yeah. The next day you realize, oh my God, I shouldn't have done that. I should have slept early.
Yeah, and if you're 18, if you're just going into college, okay, you have so much energy and
Yeah.
you kind of don't give a shit. But
Yeah.
as you start getting older, you start seeing things with a bit more of perspective, I guess.
Yeah.
And man, since we're talking about this, I like to know two things. First, what's your flavor of weird? So the things that you like to do that no one understands why you like them. And then after we can go like, what would you tell your 18-year-old self? So the Vishesh from around 10 years ago, what would you tell him if you could go back?
Yeah, so what's my taste so weird is that I like to think of what that place was. If I'm here, if I'm in Mumbai, I like to think how this place was in 1980s and how it was in 1970s and like how the people were and how everything has changed. And if I could go back in time and if I could just, or if I can't, of course I can't, unfortunately, I can't go back in time. I hope that happens in my lifetime. But if I can go and spot a place where which is a leftover, which is a remnant of the past, which shows something which is of the past, which shows that this is how the place was in 1970s or 1930s, whatever. But like still recent, what how it was in the 70s. Like like watching many 70s, 80s movies in India, or like even foreign cinema, like Iranian cinema, like Farsi movies. Like if you haven't seen Farsi movies, you should definitely watch Farsi movies. Like they're so deep and they're so true. And I like watching those movies because in those conversations you get to see the background of how the city was of what kind of cars they drove at that time and how the telephone used to be at that time and how a bus stop would be at that time. And I don't know, I just find that fascinating. Like I see Russian movies also for that. Even though I've never been to those places, I just imagine that now it would be a lot more modern, and in those times it was so different. And then in Indian movies also, or Indian shows from the 90s, whatever, they're supposed to be like iconic classics, but they don't really make sense right now. They're not as funny, but I just watch them for the fact that I get to see that, okay, this point in time, this city had like apartments which looked like this, and the clothes they wore, man. I mean, the attire they had, all of those things, they're so different, right? That is one thing that fascinates me, and that's I like that. It might be weird, but I like that.
Yeah, it's interesting. And do you see a lot of influence by, like you mentioned, Iranian movies and Iranian culture? Of course, since India, Iran, Arabia are sort of neighbors, do
Yeah,
you see a lot of influence from one country to the other?
absolutely, man. Like before independence, like before we became Pakistan and West Pakistan, and it's all one country, right? So we had borders which were close to Iran, and like like grandparents, my grandfather knew, he definitely knew Urdu. I'm not sure if he knew Farsi, but the people who would teach Farsi in schools, school system had Farsi, which is Parsi. So we call it Farsi. It's Persian, the Persian language. So it's because it was our neighbor. Because it was our neighbor, it was like generally people went from here to there, and even Afghanistan. Kabul is the capital, and like Kabuliwala, like even after independence, people like they had a cycle. The many people, I think the unfortunately many immigrants who came from Kabul, and they used to sell dates on the cycle. They used to have these small. It's like a very unorganized sort of a setting where then they're blowing the horn and they're like, come on, like buy some dates from me. And he was called Kabuliwala, and Kabuliwala is like somebody who comes from Kabul, and he sells dates and like figs and all those like berries and all. So there's a lot of influence, man. And then Iran, that is the one place I want to definitely go before, like that is one of the places I really want to go, because it's like the gateway to Asia. On this side you have like Turkey and Syria and Iraq, and on this side you have Pakistan and Afghanistan. So it's like a transition from sort of a European setting to the Asian setting, and yeah, but unfortunately, I think if you go to Iran, like then you have a difficult time if you want to go to Canada or you want to go to US, if you have an Iranian stamp on your passport or a Russian stamp on your passport. So yeah, it's if you want to go to Australia, Singapore, wherever, I think your visa application might get rejected. But that's the point. I have to make so much money that it doesn't matter. I can fucking pay them whatever and be like, okay, man, fuck you. Take this money and like let me go there.
Yeah, the famous fuck you money. Yeah, it Iran is a place that's so interesting, and I
Yeah,
also want to go there sometime. Like those beautiful landscapes, and
yeah,
their culture is also very interesting.
yeah. The history and everything, it's fascinating, man. It's a lot like India. They have these big naan breads they sell on the stores, like on the roadways. Even we have that. The many things that they have, like the drinks that they have, it's very similar to India. And I mean, it's nice, man. And it's crazy, before the Iranian Revolution, they used to be like when the hippies movement was happening, there used to be like the Volkswagen, then the truck, the hippies would travel fucking from Denmark. If somebody's coming, they take up get on the ride from Denmark, cross wherever, go through Turkey, go through Syria, go through go Pakistan, Afghanistan. Then they used to come to India and they used to stop over at places and do all of those things. And imagine you can't even go there by aircraft now. So imagine people like driving a car and coming from there to here. That is what I find fascinating, right? How people lived just 30, 40 years back, man. Just 40 years back. And women were wearing bikinis in Iran, bro, in 60s, 65. And they were having wine and all of those things. And the revolution came up and did whatever it did, but that still doesn't like, rob the place of what it still is. It's that vibe is still there. And I don't want to go there for all of that, but I'm just saying that how that whole place has changed in the past 30, 40 years.
Yeah, it is fascinating to imagine the hippie movement and the guys traveling around Iran
Yeah.
and India with the Volkswagen vans and how much everything changed. I've seen the pictures as well of Iran and the girls with the skirts and
Yeah.
those things that it's hard to even imagine today, but they're the same people. Like they're the sons and the grandsons of those people.
Yeah. And that is those are the times when like the Beatles also came to India, the 60s, 70s when they came to Rishikesh. That's also the time when like there's yoga booming in India, and then a lot of yoga going from India to outside. That is the time. That's not that like 70s, 80s, also the 90s, but yeah, 70s, 80s, many people coming on that bandwagon going to Osho, and all those people came up, all those religious leaders came up because there's so many hippies which are like were tired of whatever the life they were living in back home, and they just decided to like come here and like become seekers and give up that form of life. And it's crazy, man. It's just 30 years back, it would have been a different world, and now it's such a different world.
Yeah, it's very interesting to think of this, how the world was different 20, 30, 50 years back, and
Yeah,
also to think about how it will be in 20,
yeah,
30, 50 years.
yeah, yeah. But I think it's losing its essence, I would have loved to have been born in that age, but I think there's so many conveniences they wouldn't have had. Like they don't have internet and they don't have phones and like, you know, but I think people are a lot happier there. I don't know. Might be not. I don't know. Not sure.
Yeah, although there is this thing that's like the golden age fallacy,
Yeah.
that we tend to look at an age about 30 years before and think it was great, while it not necessarily was as good as we think because we
Actually,
tend to
yeah.
remember the good things and forget about the bad ones.
Yeah.
But in a sense of what you were saying, I think that's really true right now because since we have smartphones and we have this constant buzz of information, time to be bored anymore. We don't have time to. That's why meditation and mindfulness became a thing lately because you didn't need to think about mindfulness if you were sitting on a bus and you didn't have anything to do and you were just looking out of the
Yeah.
window, bored out of your mind, you were already mindful at that time. And nowadays we kind of have to because even if you phones with them,
Yeah.
so you don't have 5 minutes in your day that you aren't looking at a screen.
And if you don't look at your phone, and if you're sitting in a bus and if you're not looking at your phone, people be like, he's such a loner. He doesn't have anything to do. If you're in the local, if you're in the train, and if you're not doing something, if you're not doing like you has to be either it has to be the newspaper or some magazine or some book or some phone. It has to be something. If you're not be like, oh, he's just sitting, he's just traveling, he's just sitting. You'll be like, oh my God, look at him, he's not doing anything. What is he thinking about? He must be so sad about life. That is what you're thinking.
Yeah, that's the funny thing because I don't know if you've seen it, but there's this meme like saying, "Oh, in the good old days, people used to talk to each other and everything." And then there are people in a train or a bus, and everyone's got their newspaper, so no one was talking to anyone, anyways.
Yeah. Yeah. What is the thing that you were crazy about? Like, what is your crazy thing that people don't understand?
Good question, man. I think many things actually. It's because I haven't thought about it like in terms of what other people would think are weird, because for me they're normal, right? But I guess I have a bit of an obsessive personality at times. Like I'm very obsessed with learning and reading and getting results about things that people not necessarily understand why. And I don't know. I like to do things that people might think are a bit whack or a bit crazy, but really, you're right, man. I should think about it because I don't even think about it. Probably I should ask someone, like some of my close friends or my girlfriend, and ask what's my weirdness because I'm not even sure anymore.
Yes, weird. What are you reading currently
But
then?
anyways, of weird things, you mean?
Current what are you reading currently? I'm saying you say no, you like reading and learning.
Oh, what I'm reading. It's funny thing that you ask. I'm on the Kindle. I was reading the Bhagavad Gita lately. I'm a
What is
bit
that?
interested in that kind of thing. The Gita, how do you
Bhagavad
say it
Gita.
in?
Oh my God.
Yeah, yeah, the
Wow.
Gita. Yeah, I'm not sure how to pronounce it
Yeah, it's called the Gita.
right, but yeah.
I thought you were saying something Spanish or Portuguese. It's and something I don't know. It's called Gita. Yeah, you got it right.
Oh no, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I'm still in the beginning, but yeah, it's very interesting, and I see a lot of parallels to other things I've read before, and probably they were influenced by the Gita, and
Yeah.
yeah, it's so interesting, man.
I haven't read
And
it,
yeah,
bro,
maybe this is
I
one of
haven't
the
read it.
weirdnesses.
Yeah. What? Sorry?
I guess this might be one of my weirdnesses. Like people might think, why the hell are you reading that kind of thing? And well, I find
No.
it fascinating. I find it interesting.
Yeah, that's what sets you apart, right? If you are like, okay, why should you read this? You should be like all closed and like, okay, if I want to read the Quran, oh my God, no, no, you're not supposed to read the Quran, only Muslims will read that. So what? Like, I mean, I hate that kind of thinking. You should be open.
Yeah, exactly. Me too. I think I want to read the Quran
Yeah,
after, and yeah, I think it's interesting. It's fascinating to
yeah.
go into those kinds of things and see the most important books, the most important scriptures for other people's and try to understand their points of view. I think it's fascinating. So, man, I usually like to close it out asking people what's their definition of success. So, for you, Vishesh, what's your definition of success? Especially now that you're working with one of the most famous success coaches in India.
So like I actually like somebody asked on a tweet like some 6 8 months back, and I remember like it came out consciously. It didn't come out consciously, but I just wrote that success for me means that I have it's the ability for me to like figure out why I'm here, figuring out my purpose, having the time and the ability. If you have the time to figure out why you're here, and if you can maintain yourself, and you have those. That is the second part of it. The basic, basic. This thing of it is that you're able to figure out why you're here. And the second part of it would be like if you have the resources to maintain yourself while you're figuring out why you're here, and uh, and a material success is part of it for me. Definitely, I want to wear. Christian Dior and Balenciaga, and I want to have a 911 by the age of 35, and I want $65 million. I ride that every day. I want 500 crores, and I want all of those things, and I want to fucking go wherever I want. It should be like I want this today, this the moment. It's 9/12/26 January, 9:12 p.m. And if I want to go to Paris tomorrow, I should be able to go to Paris tomorrow in business class or like in first class, and I shouldn't be able to be able to shouldn't be think that oh my God, the money going to come? And from there, if I want to go to Tokyo, in a different part of the world, and then from then Tokyo, I want to come to Rio, right? Rio. If I want to come to Rio de Janeiro, I came to Rio, and then from there I go to what's the capital of Argentina? Yeah,
Buenos Aires.
sorry, Buenos Aires, yeah. If I want to go to Buenos Aires, I go there, then I go to New York, and then wherever I go, I have the best treatment, fucking seven-star hotels and whatever, whatever. But that is only a part of it, and I know I will fucking get there, man. I see it in when I'm telling you this, I can see that the future, it has already happened. It's just that I am in the present, like it just has to, I have to just reach that time. I have to get on that timeline, but it's already happened in the future, and I just have to take the steps to get there. It's already happened in the future. So that is what success is to me. Material success is definitely a part of it. I wouldn't deny that. I want to indulge my senses into of everything, and designer clothes is definitely one of them. Even though I know it's like, it's vanity, and that is what I realize. It's my sir, the person I work for, he does these shoots wherein like the video guy, he comes and we go, and like the video guy selects the clothes for him, like which ones would be the better ones. And then I realized that he has Burberry and Gucci and all of those things. And even those Burberry clothes, even that Burberry thing had like a lint, a lint, like the cloth comes out, and the fabric like comes out. And I realized like even Burberry is supposed to be the best and all, but it still happens. So even after knowing that, I still want all of those things. I want to wear a Longines watch and Narado and Prada and whatever. But yeah, the basic thing is like figuring out why you're here.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. I think definitely material success is part of it. And from what I gather of what you were saying, and especially my view of it, it's more a matter of freedom. Maybe when you're able to afford all of these things, you might not even buy them, but you know you can if you need
Oh, I
to,
will
if
buy
you
them,
want
bro.
to.
I will buy them. I will live that life for 5, 10 years, and then it'll be like, okay, fuck this life, man. I'll go back
And
to
then you
India,
go
to
to
whatever.
meditation.
Yeah, let's go to the Himalayas and meditate there. I mean, you have to indulge in them, even though I know it's not, it's temporary and whatever, but like I still want to experience it, man. I don't want to. There are many people who say this, oh, I don't want material wealth, I don't want all of this, but then bottom of it is that fucking you can't afford it. You don't have the balls to work for it. That is why you say it. And the reason that I'm telling you this because I know that if I want to reach that level, it has to be like insane amount of work to get there. It's that's the reason only 1% of the world has it, or 0.1% of the world has it, because only 0.1% of them have done it. Only those people can afford that. It's not for the masses. It's not. I don't want to travel I want to ride a normal, like a mediocre normal car. Even though I'm very fortunate for that car, I'm very privileged that I have that car. But it can't be the end of me, like fucking born in the same car, and then when I'm dead, no upgradation. It's same car only. So it's has to be a 911 at least, Porsche 911 at least.
Yeah, I love Porsches, and
Yeah,
it's a funny thing because when I lived in Germany,
yeah.
the train station that I used to stop at
Hmm.
to go to work was
That
Porsche Platz. So it's like
Porsche?
the Porsche Square. Yes. In German it's like Porsche Platz. And that's
Okay.
like Porsche Square because
Oh,
it's where the Porsche Museum headquarters of Porsche are. Because
yeah.
actually the office I worked in was actually we rented it from Porsche. It was a Porsche office that they rented it to the company I was working for.
Cool,
So
bro.
every day I stop at the Porsche Museum and look at that, and
Every day.
yeah, every day it was my train
Okay,
station to
yeah.
stop to go to
Yeah.
work. So check out like Porsche Museum
Okay, I didn't.
after on Google, and it's a very interesting architecture, and I'd stop there every day and wait for the
Stuttgart, right?
train, so I'd be looking at it.
You're in Stuttgart?
Yeah, in Stuttgart. Yeah.
Stuttgart, okay. Cool, bro. You also want the Porsche?
Yeah.
Which one?
I want to own all of them.
Oh, yeah, of
You know,
course.
I
By
told
the
my
showroom.
dad I'd give him a 911 and a Cayenne to my mom.
Yeah,
And for me, man, maybe a Taycan or
yeah, yeah. But the
actually
Taycan doesn't
just
look as good,
the
nah. It's an EV. It doesn't look as good, Even I had thought of the Taycan, but it's a little, I don't know, the 911 looks more dope. It's prop.
yeah, yeah, to be honest, I was thinking about it. I think the Cayman would
Yeah,
be the perfect one for me.
yeah,
Like just a little coupe
yeah.
just for two people. That's great. That's awesome.
Have you seen the ads on YouTube? Like they have like 1 minute ads of Porsche, and the way I saw it, the way they tell the story. So this in one of these ads, it was like they're celebrating 70 years, and the ad starts with the father telling the father going to office, and he's giving the boy a car like a dummy of the actual 911, and that the father goes in the 911, and the next scene they show that how the newer versions came along, and the last they show that same boy who had the car. He's in his newest whatever 911 2023 version. And then he goes and gives the his daughter the latest version of 911. And the way they put it together was so nice in just 1 minute, 2 minutes. You could see that's the storytelling is it was amazing, and that just makes you want that brand more than what it would actually be. But yeah, it's cool.
Yeah, their storytelling and branding
Yeah,
is top notch, and
yeah,
yeah, everything that they do is a fucking masterpiece. All of the cars, all of
yeah.
the Porsche design things they do,
Even
they're
though
amazing.
the cyber truck is supposed to be like faster than the 911, that is what he said specifically, in the conference he specifically said that this truck can go faster than the 911, and then he went on to say that the cyber truck can have whatever like payload of 100 kilos, like 300 pounds, whatever, and still go faster than the. But then I still wouldn't want that is it's that's not the job of the that's not why you buy the car, right? It's the feeling you get when you buy the car.
Yeah, and it's not only going fast on like a straight, you also have
Yeah,
to go through the curves, and
yeah,
I'm sure that the any
yeah.
Tesla
On a
won't be
racetrack, yeah,
as good on the curve.
yeah.
Yeah.
But we'll buy the Cybertruck as well, no problems, right? We'll get the Cybertruck as well. So what's
Oh
it?
yeah, no, no, I don't have any prejudice with
No, no,
electric
we'll buy
cars.
the Cybertruck
I
as well. I'm
want.
saying we'll buy all of that. Doesn't matter, right? Just have that as well.
Yeah, 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 exactly. I don't have any prejudice. I will have both, hopefully, and
Exactly,
or at
bro.
least
Exactly.
rent and play around with some of them.
No, bro, we
Yeah,
buy
man,
it,
it's good to
bro.
know that you're.
Renting is for
Ah,
poor people. We buy it. We buy it.
but I don't need to buy all of them.
You
Just the
said you
ones I
want all
like most.
Porsches.
Yeah, Porsche, yes. Not all
Oh, okay,
Teslas.
yeah. Special place for Porsche. That's cool.
Yeah, yeah, like my little Porsche museum.
Cool, bro. Cool.
Yeah,
Like,
Vishesh, this has been awesome. Thank you so much for coming and
yeah.
for all of our talks on Indian history and on Hinduism. And this is the best ending ever because we're talking about a
Like,
subject that both of us love. And
yeah.
yeah, man, thank you so much for this.
Thank you to you too, bro. It's been like 2.5 hours, 3 hours, whatever, and I didn't realize the time. And it was great connecting with you, man. I mean, this is the first time I'm talking to you, and the karmic connection. I can feel the karmic connection. We would have been like, I don't know. Must have met you sometime in my previous life, and that's the connection. So yeah, it's nice having like talking to you. Sorry, and I love the questions, and I appreciate you doing these things, and keep up the good work, bro. I hope you get all the success.
Yeah, man, thank you. I need to keep the good work so that we can get the Porsches.
Yo, pass is going to happen, bro. By the age of 35, I'm going to get it. That is what I write every day. It has to happen before 35. Before 35.
Yeah, until 35 we have time. I used
Yeah.
to think about doing things before 30, but now I only have on 1 month, so until 35, it's pretty dope.
When is your birthday?
It's February 22.
23.
22.
22, you are number 4. Okay. I am also number 4. Like I'm 31, you are 22, right? So this
Yeah.
Hindu numerology says that 4 numbers, number ones, they do that also. So That's another thing. That's cool, bro. But it's nice, like being here and talking to you. Like so many things that you asked me that I didn't know that I knew about, and I was forced to like articulate it in words. So thanks for those questions, and yeah, man, thanks for everything. It was nice talking to you.
Oh, thank you, man. It was awesome. And I know that anyone listening to this and watching this can get a lot of value. They got a masterclass on everything India and on a bit of things Porsche. And yeah, man, thank you so much.
Same here, man.